Hello, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Today, we are going to be watching the movie Alien 1979. I have a special guest with us today. It is going to be Douglas A. Burton.
Hey, everybody, what's happening? I am wearing
And we
my
have,
Alien shirt, my Ripley shirt,
yes, I was
just
just
for
going
this
to
special
mention that.
occasion.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. Where, oh my goodness, where did you get that shirt?
It's I got it actually in a movie theater. We went and saw Alien. My wife and I went and saw Alien, this movie, at Alamo Draft House.
What?
And in fact, I think Mark D with a C was mentioning he collects these Mondo, I think posters, or was it posters? Um, and Mondo is based here in Austin. And so this is a Mondo t-shirt that came, if you spent a little extra, obviously, you got this one of a kind Mondo shirt when you went to see the movie. So this was maybe 4 years ago, maybe somewhere in
Oh
there.
man,
Yeah.
that is
What's up, DJ
awesome.
Knight?
Oh yeah, so in the chat we've got DJ Knight in the house, just totally hyping everything up. Can't wait. Oh my goodness. And it's got a lot of uh, comments by Sigourney Weaver there. And we've got Andrew Weirdna. Nice to see you today, Andrew. Says sub RNG and DJ smash like subscribe. Thank you so much, Andrew. That's very sweet of you to tell everybody to do those things. Yes, if you're liking the stuff later on, or you don't have to do it right now, but at some point it would be great to get a like. And if you haven't subscribed, go on ahead and do so. Keith E says, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Keith E. He's here in full force with the donuts. Loving it, loving it. And yeah, we're pretty much there's quite a few people watching, but not quite yet commenting. So we're gonna let people pile into the room. And at the same time, we're going to talk a little bit about the movie Alien 1979. Now,
Yes.
when you got your shirt, um, that wasn't not the first time you saw Aliens. You saw it before then, right?
Yes, I had seen it before. Now, I saw this out of order. I saw Aliens first.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I saw Aliens first, and what's weird is my dad. This was back in Blockbuster Video era. We would rent, like every Friday night we'd rent a movie from Block. We'd each pick one out, and one of the first rated R movies I ever saw was Aliens, and I
Ooh,
was
okay.
10 years old, and it freaked me out.
Yeah.
It
Ah,
scared the hell out of me. And I remember the part that I was the most scared was, or terrified. The images that stuck in my head were
hmm,
in the film Aliens, when they find sub-level 3 and they're moving around and the cameras are panning and you see these people in like these nightmarish poses.
yes.
I was just like, I don't like that at all. Like, I was pretty freaked out by it. So, but it's Aliens, and it was a great, intense movie, and it
Yes.
always stuck with me. And it was so satisfying as a film that I never even had any real desire to go backwards in time and see Aliens. So it was maybe 10 years later.
Yeah.
Someone's like, "You want to watch Alien?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll watch it." So I put it on, and I was like, wow, Alien 1979. I was like, what? This film it's not at all like Aliens.
Yes.
At first, I was almost disappointed because it was so slow moving by comparison from what I was expecting. But then I realized that it's not about how much it conforms to the 1986 sequel. That this was the original, and this was really its own thing. So it was
Yeah.
it was almost like it was a completely different genre, much more horror based and like psychological suspense. So I ended up falling in love with the movie Alien in its own right. And you kind of love these movies separately, for what they are separately, and then this added bonus that they happen to be related to each other, Alien
Yeah.
and Alien. You know, it feels like two different visions, which is
Yes.
what.
Oh no, you were saying which is what?
Well, what's that?
You were saying which is what? You were almost about to say something and then you got
Two different visions from two different directors, and this was the original. And at some point, I'll go into what happened in the late 70s, which is becoming one of my favorite eras in film to think about.
okay, yes, I love that point there. And I have some stuff to chime in about that too. And uh Andrew says, great point. I was always more an Alien fan, but love Aliens. Okay, yeah, different genre of movies, but definitely uh interesting.
Well, what's
That
weird is
they're in the same room.
this one's almost easier to watch. Like if it's late at night and you're
You
like,
think
I'm
so?
just going to throw on a quick movie. It's hard to just throw on Aliens because it's so
Yes.
intense. Like
Yeah,
you
you're
are
right.
on a roller coaster. So Alien is a little easier to kind of sit and settle with and go into this journey. And there's so much nuance in the film that I just love and appreciate.
Oh man. Well, I'll just say this. I saw this in the theater when it came out with my mom, and at the time when I saw it, I was definitely scared out of my mind because I was like maybe 8 or 9, I'm not sure, depending on the time of year. And it like it scared me. It was like the one time I was truly scared. Like even for other movies, I'm like I can see behind the wall of like what they're doing and the music cues and everything. This one took two genres absolutely loved, even at the age of 9 or 8, and just like put them together, fuse them together in a way that I just was like, huh? Horror and sci-fi. I wasn't not so much a big fan of horror, but there's a certain type of horror that I really like, which is more psychological. And they're like a thriller almost. And so what I loved about it was that they had to figure out where this creature was on the in the ship and what it was because nobody knew what it was. It was like what is this thing? And there were so many layers to how scary this creature was and terrifying and smart. It was terrifyingly smart. And so that was one of the things that kind of got me when I was watching it the first time that really like hit me hard. But also looking at this film at such a young age, I really didn't want to revisit it again. And of course, Aliens, right? Which is a totally it's basically action, adventure, sci-fi,
Right.
and very little horror. There are some moments in there where it's terrifying, but it was like it took like three genres and put them together. And I mean, the sci-fi element is just so um overwhelming in it. So you felt that you were in that beautiful story. Uh and it was tailored a little bit differently than the full-on horror body horror at some points of Alien, and went to more of sort of a tactical, we can work our way out of it. There were moments where the humans were actually making some damage on the aliens, and it felt like you could possibly fight these things. And the original movie, there's like pretty much no hope, and even the ending felt like a fluke. Like it was like, oh my god, it just so happened that she knows all those different things, and it just sort of worked in her favor for
Well, and
for
you
that
had,
last moment.
and sometimes a script will dial in on something that kind of just hits the nail on the head. And in this movie, you
Yeah,
talk about the sense of hopelessness,
yeah.
right? That there's no way to win. And the line that ties it all together is Ash when he's like, perfect organism. It's a
Yes.
perfect organism. Just that concept.
Yeah.
I don't, we think of it as a cool line in a movie, but it's a concept that there's a perfect organism. You can't beat it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's perfectly equipped to destroy humanity, whether there's 6 of you or billions, it does not matter. That the way this thing is designed by nature is impenetrable. And that is a concept, there's a horrifying concept. And
Yeah.
you mix that with the look and the menacing presence of this thing, and it comes together and it just sticks in the
Yeah,
psyche.
it
And
sticks in there.
that's why this movie is a classic.
Yeah. And like even after seeing it and felt like, oh, this is a movie I don't want to come back to. Actually, it it does make you want to come back to it because of the unique elements that are in this movie. The design, all those things never leave. And in a way, back then I thought it was kind of ugly, and I was like, what is this? Is really, I don't want my sci-fi to be scary, but it did titillate me a little bit because it was like an interesting world where you had a corporation that ruled over, like, kind of was like lord and judge and jury of all this, and they had mother who was kind of like doing all of these things behind the scenes and was like really the one in control. It had Ash who was working alongside this covert operation, that was away and had none of the interests of the crew. The crew was expendable, and
Yep.
the crew was also like it had a lot of I would say the tropes of some of them. There were a lot of conspiracy movies in the 70s, at least the like I would say the entire 70s, a lot of conspiracy movies about, corporations doing like underhanded things and people, mysteriously disappearing or dying because of these things. I actually watched Capricorn 1 the other
Oh
day, and
yeah.
it was like, oh, yes, it's following the 70s tropes of,
The fake moon
those
landing.
yeah, the just really cool stuff. And it was just great to see it in this movie. I just wanted to highlight Tom Baker. It says, I talked to Roger Christian and got his signed biography book. And if you can let us know who Roger Christian is, that would be great. I'm figuring
Looking it
it's
up.
somebody who worked on the movie. DJ Knight says the movie
Oh,
was original but scary. And did you find the answer?
yeah. Roger Christian is an English set director, production designer, and feature film director. He won an Academy Award for his work on Star Wars. So I mean, he's going to be in our hearts right there.
Oh,
So that's incredible. I'm seeing some footage. He's still alive. This is great. These guys are still with us. I love that. Anyway, yeah, Roger Christian. That's a heck of a thing to have. Who was the one who said that?
Tom
Um,
Baker.
oh yeah, Tom. That's a heck of a thing to have, sir.
Yes.
That is
And
great.
Keith E says, I saw this in Greenwich Village, New York, and it only opened for 2 days at the theaters. Oh yeah, yeah. I could imagine they were like, okay, we got to take this out. It was scary. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was really scary. And let's see. And Moonbeam says, I don't have a physical copy and I can't find a link. Well, I have a link here. Um, that's a link to see if you want to, you can use it. This is archive.org. We'll see if that is. DJ Knight also says it's on Disney Plus. And Tony Reyes says Alien still holds up today. And
100%.
yes, there's one moment in the film that is kind of wonky, and we'll talk about it. But they've recently in the movie Alien Romulus used that very same scene, and it doesn't look great even with our technology today. So
Man, Alien Romulus, what a swing and a miss that was.
well, I mean, clearly when you watch this movie, you'll see that the Nostromo explodes.
Yeah.
3
Yeah,
times.
I rewatched Alien Romulus, and I actually realized I knew that they ripped off a few lines here and there, right? And a few
Yeah,
things. I rewatched it and I realized they ripped off about 30 lines. Like the whole movie is an absolute ripoff upon ripoff upon ripoff. And it actually holds up worse upon
yeah,
rewatching, unfortunately. And it's so weird because you've got these two films here, Alien 1979, Aliens 1986. Some people like Alien 3. I did not, but there are people that will defend it. There are things, it has a great soundtrack. I actually really like the
okay.
soundtrack. There are things I like about it. I will say Alien 3 has, I've been starting to put together for eventually when I launch my channel. One thing that I wanted to discuss in films was cultural relevancy. Are there things about the film that have gone on to become iconic or memorable, or manners of speech, or, um, and breaking down a film and just pulling out of it what stuck. And I realized Alien 3 has one of the most iconic alien scenes, which is where Sigourney Weaver is like facing and this thing comes right up and opens its mouth. And that's a pretty famous
Yeah,
scene in an
that is
otherwise
yeah,
marginal movie.
and then the end
It,
when she has her moment, when she's falling, I think that's another iconic moment,
it is
sequence.
memorable.
Yeah, yeah. And those
Uh,
are the 2 moments that I would say from that film that you get, that everything else is like a blur. Um, it was supposed to be Earth that I from what I remember of the backstory, and they kinda copped out and made it this prison planet. But you know
yeah,
what? I kinda loved Resurrection because it was way out there and it was kinda wacky. It
I
didn't.
Resurrection's a guilty pleasure movie for me. I actually
Yeah,
like it.
it's just a guilty pleasure, yes. They had fun with it, I thought, and they didn't break any lore from my recollection. It seemed like, kind of a wacky idea that they were applying to it, and, it's still like one thing I notice about these newer movies is that the what they call it, I guess the ingestion stage of the aliens seem to happen instantly now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like in this movie, you'll see that it takes a little time. Takes a little time, and these are creatures that need to grow slowly.
It
So
just states inside a living human host. These are your
yes.
words.
And so it's always like kind of weird to see how they're trying to create this like artificial tension by making things happen so quickly. Like, yeah, these are the new models. They fly now. So it
They
just gets
just
to be
ate
this.
in just 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
well,
and what they did, I think it was Alien Covenant where they had like spores. You step like they just
yes.
completely. This is what happens with people when when you don't have good imagination. You end up taking something
Yeah.
that's really brilliant and you downgrade it to the point of it being stupid. And
Oh,
I have
that's
gotten to a
pretty
point where I just
hardcore.
block these things out. What's that?
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Well, I get so
Well,
disappointed because it's like, what are you doing? It's like you're gonna touch up the Mona Lisa with your finger paints or something, and it's like, just stay away from these things.
well, I did not have the pleasure of seeing those. I do know a full rundown of the stories, and have seen quite a few, key pivotal moments in a lot of those.
So much
Um,
potential.
yeah, there. I know for some people, Prometheus is definitely one of their favorites,
Really?
and I really think like. Yeah, they really like that one, and just the concept of it seems like it would be great. And yeah, I don't have any more to say about it because I haven't really taken a look at it really deeply, but I will have to say that I wasn't intrigued enough to like actually sit down and watch. It's like, okay, that seems interesting, but as far as like the Alien franchise, I'm expecting a little bit something different. I suppose. And Gary is here. Says Roger Christian directed Battle. Battlefield Earth. Oh my goodness. Well,
Oh no.
to be fair, Battlefield Earth, it was definitely John Travolta's baby. So I mean, I can't blame that on you can't like associate. But anyway, it's a guilty pleasure of mine too. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I don't like
I think it's
Battlefield Earth.
fun. I think it's funny. I think it's funny. I have fun with that movie. I can't help but laugh at some of the stuff, but and eh, eh, but yeah, I can't. You can't really blame him for that because a lot of it wasn't out of his hands. As we're
Correct.
learning a lot in the news, it's just because somebody is a director doesn't mean that they control the film. Um, and Keith says, Retro, could you pin that link? Oh, yeah, I just pinned it on the top so people can see that they can see the movie in that particular link. And I hope that it's going to still be working by the time we use it. Sometimes some of these things become unavailable suddenly. And Abe is here, says, congrats on the subs. Thank you so much. Yeah, so yeah, I somehow came home on Tuesday night and saw that the channel was up to 9K subs, and that is pretty crazy because we're going on the 9th year um, in June. So in June it'll be 9 years that I've been on YouTube, and it's really kind of nice to reach that particular level or that particular milestone, if you
Yeah,
will. So
absolutely.
yes.
Onward to 10,000.
Yes, well, as however it comes. And Moonbeam says apparently they made it last year. The originals are the best. Yeah, I would say like the two, and like what I feel like Aliens. By the way, Aliens is next week's watch party.
Oh,
What I feel like they did right with Aliens was of course James Cameron at the height of his powers, and he is like amazingly like sticking to the lore and the way this we remember things from the first movie while adding new information, new
right.
things
Filling
to
in
them.
some of the blanks.
Yes, and that to me is the way to do a sequel, and that almost supersedes the original, depending on who you are, that might be, or at least matches up to. So just to keep things in the world that this is set in, and not make it so unbelievable on as far as trying to always one up yourself and change the lore of what you're doing in a way that takes away from what has happened in the past. Like I said, if you watch this movie, Ash is horribly destroyed by fire. His face melts off. Then the Nostromo explodes 3 times. So tell me you can go back to the Nostromo and excavate
Oh,
the
well,
ship.
it's not Ash. It's not Ash that they find. It's
Oh,
Rook.
oh yes, Rook. Oh
So
my
it's
God.
just the
And
same model.
yeah, yeah.
But man, they rip off like I said, I missed it the first time in Alien Romulus, but they rip off like 5 lines from him. They reuse like 5 lines just from Ash alone. I'm like, dude, stop. Stop
Well,
doing that.
well, the thing is that why would they do that when you can still, and there are many ways to say the same thing. And so it was definitely a way to get older fans back in the theater to see the stuff they had already seen, which is kind of
Right.
wild. But
Yeah.
before we get into more of that, I also wanted to get your opinions. We talked beforehand about the effects of the 70s, of sci-fi in the 70s. And can you tell us what your thesis is on this?
Yeah. So, the older I've gotten, the more I really have zeroed in on the late 70s. And I realized that there was so much going on there in terms of the good side of human ingenuity, human imagination, a love of storytelling, and a almost pathological desire to get something exactly right in terms of a movie. Like you could tell these directors, the writers, they were really driven to hit the nail on the head with these films. And science fiction for such a long time had been kind of a B-rate movies, right? Or like they just didn't have the budgets or the technology to bring this stuff to life maybe the way they wanted. You had like Forbidden Planet, where the effects aren't meant to fool you, almost like when you go to see a play, it's meant to fill in enough of a background or of a costume to give you some sense of the world. And, that's what a lot of the science fiction movies were like. And the big breakout came in 1969 with Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was the first time that a movie was filmed, science fiction film in space that looked authentic. Now some people, it's very slow moving,
Yes.
but there's a certain effect that was done. We can analyze that film one day too. But
Yes.
but you had, NASA, clean cut astronauts. You had slow moving ships. You heard a lot of breathing. There was a certain authenticity to it all, and people were blown away by it. And some people, I think even Roger Ebert, puts it as the #1 film of all time because of what it was able to do. This is what film can do for science fiction. Look at this. And people were blown away by it. Well, people tried to replicate that and could not. They were struggling. And I feel like there was a lot of baby boomers, late baby boomers, who had grown up in the 50s and their parents were watching all of these films like War of the World and some of those the Thing from Another Planet and or A Thing from Another World, and they had this like pent up urge to kind of like fix those. Like, man, those movies captured my imagination, but they weren't necessarily as authentically believable to the eye. And you had this group of like this USC film school, which was just loaded with future greats. Like George Lucas came from there, and Dan O'Bannon, who worked on this film, came from the USC film school as well. And he worked with John Carpenter on a film called Dark Star. And this came out in 1974. And it's kind of a comedy. And the idea is there's these astronauts out there. They find some strange, bizarre organism, and they inadvertently bring it onto the ship. And it looks like a beach ball. This thing is terrible. It's literally, the alien's a beach ball that you can bounce. And the movie came out, and it was considered a commercial failure. And but it has gone on to become a cult classic, Dark Star. Anyway, Dan O'Bannon was like, man, I think I want to redo that premise, except make it scary. So we'll get into that in a second. He rewrote the script for what would become Alien at a time when nobody cared. Sci-fi movies were still hard to replicate. It was kind of, you had this one-off with 2001: A Space Odyssey, but these films were just struggling. You had like Logan's Run and what were some of the other ones? I guess that was 70. THX 1138, George Lucas. So, and then comes Star Wars. George Lucas, the visionary, rebuilds technology in order to make convincing, authentic-looking science fiction imagery. Industrial Light and Magic was born. Skywalker Sound was born. The THX sound system. Everything was reworked, and suddenly, and then Star Wars became a global phenomenon. So, and keep in mind, this launches one of the greatest franchises of all time, Star Wars. Suddenly, there's a demand for science fiction, and now we could film it and maybe even convince you that it looks real. And so, Star Wars was 1977. Later that year, Close Encounters of the Third Kind comes out, directed by some young whippersnapper named Steven Spielberg. 1979, you get The Black Hole, which I love. I love that movie. I don't care what anyone says.
I actually saw it the other day too.
Yeah. You get Star Trek 1, the motion picture. And of course, you get Alien, this movie. And what's weird is the more you dig into it, you realize there's competing levels of creativity. So Star Wars rejected the 2001: A Space Odyssey ultra realism, right? And it went with more of the Flash Gordon fantasy of space, right? The space opera. Well, Alien decided to kind of return to form to a more serious space. And the astronauts So you had the NASA clean cut astronauts in the 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then in Star Trek, you've got the military pajamas
Yes.
of Star Trek. And then you have, what was the other one? I'm missing. Oh, Star Wars. More of the swashbuckling, adventuresome, space, space Western cowboys. And Alien came up with kind of a new take on this. So they said, let's do, I think most people are familiar with this concept, truckers in space, right?
Yes,
They're going to go truckers in space. They wanted the astronauts to be not NASA athletes of the apex level, genius athletes. They wanted blue collar astronauts.
Yes.
And they don't even wear astronaut clothes. They wear like Hawaiian shirts. And so these guys look like a 70s bar. Like if you walked into a bar in the 70s, whatever these guys are wearing, that's what our astronauts are going to look like. We take it for granted today, but that was a big risk on the part of the filmmaker because people might not believe that these are astronauts, right?
Yes.
And you also lose the sleek, Arrowhead spaceships and the dog fighting TIE fighters and X-Wing. You get this sort of like manufacturing plant with the Nostromo that glides. So this was a new look. And I love the opening scene in Alien because it sets a specific tone, which we'll get to. So space is scary. The opening shot is like this yellowy, powdery belt of in space with like light flashing through it. And there's this giant silhouette of a planet. And there's this sound that's playing. And suddenly it's like space is empty. Space is dangerous. And space is scary, which is not the George Lucas image of space, right?
Yes,
so Alien comes in and kind of elbows that out of the way and says, we're going to scare you in space. And then, they're famous, in space, no one can hear you scream. All of these things start working together to really set the table. So here's another 70s science fiction film that's wedging its way into what's becoming a crowded arena, right?
Yes.
And here's one that kicks some things to the side, and it's here to stay, and it's Alien.
Yeah. Like they're still making Alien movies, planning on making Alien movies. So I know
and a TV show is coming out.
A TV show is coming as well. And from what I heard, it's finally coming to Earth, and it's like so very wild. I just wanted to say hi to Bonzo Kilborn. I'm sorry, a lot. I'm way behind on the messages, but I definitely wanted to hear Doug talk here. And Bonzo is saying the tagline, but changed it a little bit on YouTube. Everybody can hear you scream. And on X as well. And Bonzo says, Dougie, where have you been, bro? So you've been missed, Doug. You've been missed. We missed you around here. But
Bonzo, I will not BS you. I would never prioritize family like that.
Oh gosh. And and Keith E says, congratulations on the 9,000 subs. I hope you got oil and vinegar on all of them. Oh man. And just gonna jump down really quick. Oh, Sergeant Giratana is here. How are you? So good to see you. Hope you'll hang out with us today. And the Outcast Creative, Lance, where are you?
Lance, what's up, buddy?
Alien, a great example of the perfect screenplay. I've got a great breakdown of it with all the key story beats. Oh, okay. I guess is that on your channel or in your book?
So in the screenwriting world, the idea of the perfect screenplay is like the holy grail. And what's interesting is Alien does get brought up as a perfect screenplay.
Yes.
Which is amazing to me because, in this day and age, we really get tough on a lot of movie studios for all the different hands on the wheel. And what's crazy is that happened here with Alien. There was all sorts of different revisions, and Mother was actually the name of Ash at one point. And there were, we can get into the fact that it was written where there were just last names. It could be of either gender. So, and what's interesting too is Aliens is also a famous screenplay because it was one of the few, you're not supposed to give a lot of description in your screenplays. A lot of amateurs tend to write a novel when they write their screenplays. Cameron was able to write just enough of the imaginative description in his screenplay, which is considered you're not supposed to, but it changed forever what you can do in a screenplay if you have the imagination and vision. So it's interesting that both screenplays in that, besides the greatness of the film, the screenplays as a stack of papers are of themselves rather well known in the screenwriting community.
Yes, I mean, even I knew about the screenplay for Aliens back in the late 90s. I had a copy. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I loved it. And I read it and reread it. It was just great. Okay, so I'm going to jump down a little bit. Sorry if I'm skipping any important messages. Oh, Stunt Brat is here.
Stunt Brat, what's up?
Retro and Douglas, alien hugs.
Oh, it's so cold and slimy.
And the Outcast Creative says 9K. Yay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'm going to zoom down really quick. Also, Lance also says, like Cameron said, Alien is like a haunted house where things jump out from the dark. Aliens like being on a roller coaster where you know what's coming, but you just can't stop. Yeah. Oh man. And I think and I watched the commentary of Ridley Scott on Aliens and on Alien itself, and he did compare it to a haunted house, and that was really cool. Just keep going.
That's a great way to describe it. And I could talk briefly once we start when the movie starts of the archetypal designs that fit the heroine's labyrinth, with even a few that fit the hero's journey. Ripley actually tends to pull a little bit of double duty. She goes a little bit on a hero's journey and a lot in a heroine's labyrinth. So you get a little bit of both. And that's why you have two villains. You have a hero's journey villain and you have a heroine's labyrinth villain. The hero's journey villain is the militant outsider that can destroy the culture, alien and inhuman and, robot, and then you've got the insider villain, which is Ash, which is the heroine's labyrinth villain, and she must unmask this individual.
Yeah. I just wanted to say hi to Miss Martin Muse. Hi, how are you? And let's see. And Moonbeam says TH 1138 is where the THX sound system gets its name from.
Correct.
And let's see. Andrew says, when I first watched the Truckers in Space thing, gave the perfect implication for that story, almost like Kaplan's Modern Times, just regular people caught up in the Wayland Utana's game. Oh, okay.
Yep.
And it really does make sense. I mean, once you start hearing the dialogue from like Parker, definitely feels like the working man trying to.
It's it's blue collar, it's working man. They're talking about their shares and we're being worked too much and all these things. So and I think they've cast very, very well throughout. I think Tom Skerritt played a good leader who was also semi-ineffective, but he had a commanding presence, and then he would kind of disappear on you. He was very and Yaphet. How am I always mess up his name? I don't want to say it.
Yes, you're going in the right direction.
Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah,
is that correct?
I believe so. Your first name is
Yaphet Kotto. Okay, I was so scared of mispronouncing the name. He is excellent in this, and this is almost like partially his film. He was such a standout in this. And then of course you have Lambert, the Scream Queen. What's Veronica Cartwright?
Cartwright.
Is that right? Yeah, she's a Scream Queen. She was actually cast originally to be Ripley, and they kind of bumped her. Sigourney Weaver at the time was at this time when casting was going on was actually more known for her Broadway performances.
Yes.
So they kind of brought her into Hollywood a little bit of like, can she carry a film. And
Well,
she's what I refer to as an emergent heroine, one
yeah.
who is kind of in the background and kind of slowly steps up. And she's really an emergent heroine in both Alien and Aliens, to where as the film progresses, everyone more and more starts listening to Ripley.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I love that. Um, but she doesn't really even get a good, like, moment for herself until, like, more than halfway through, like, maybe I would say 40, 50 minutes in.
That's not
Um
our planet.
And, Vonzo Kilburn says, "Douglas, your enthusiasm is a thing of beauty." It
Thank
is.
you, Bonzo.
And, yes, let's see. Uh, and so Brett says, "2001 was, like watching paint dry. Great moon landing set, though." It's a little long, it's a little long, but I just loved it because, I love space and the idea of exploring space, um, and so, seeing a movie like that was just like it just blew my mind, and I was, like, immediately, like, loving the concept of going from, from apes to space,
Do you know
and,
to this day that that is the greatest jump in time in a film between two scenes?
oh,
When the
it's
ape
great.
and Moongazer, I think his name is Moongazer, is actually
Yes.
the
Mhm.
script name. When he throws the bone up, there's a and it's such a weird hard cut too. It goes right to a spaceship floating through space. It's the
Yes.
largest time jump ever filmed.
Yeah, and it really makes sense as they're both tools, they become tools of mankind,
I love
and it's just
2001.
yeah, the implications are great, and then then we get the star child at the end, so
Well, and
great.
just to defend Stunt Brat on some level, when I
Oh,
saw it as a kid, because
it's
everyone was
hard.
talking like, "Oh my god, 2001, 2001," and I was like, "Okay, let's watch it." And I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?" It's this guy's just
Yeah.
breathing like for like 7 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
so as a kid, I completely was like,
No, no,
"This is
no,
a
no.
classic? Well, I
You
don't get this
yeah,
at all."
yeah,
And then of course, as I got older and as I understood the context, and
yeah,
that's so important to understand the context, the world that existed when the movie was born
yeah.
makes a big difference into understanding the full gravity of the film.
It does, and I love it. But so we're we're in agreement with you. So it does. It's hard to watch if you don't really know what the heck. In fact, for many years, many people didn't know what the heck was going on, and they were like, "Okay, what is this about?" They weren't quite sure,
You know,
and
I got to say too, we were talking about Alien and Aliens as a great classic with a great sequel. I actually think 2010 is a phenomenal sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's
mm,
completely different type of film. It's very 80s. It doesn't have the stylism or the artistic edges that you got from Stanley Kubrick. But
yeah,
Roy Schneider, John Lithgow, I love 2010: A Space Odyssey. That's another one. I think one of the most underappreciated sequels
yeah.
possibly ever out there.
I did manage to see that recently as well.
I love it. I love it.
Reviews are coming for all of this stuff. I just have to have the time to put it all together. And let's see. More congratulations, guys. You are so sweet. Thank you so much, DJ Knight. Thank you so much, Moonbeam. And Keith E.
All right.
Yeah, he has a channel, says that he has 55 subscribers, and that's a perfect
Keith, you
place
got
to
them
be.
right where you want them.
Yes. And let's see. Um, so Brett says Ridley Scott directed me and others for um, a Peugeot
It's a
commercial for
car.
Europe.
Wow,
Interesting.
that's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
cool. Ridley is he seems to have sort of a gruff um persona, I guess. You don't mess with him is sort of the thing. Like, he's not a pushover. But as far as like his creative endeavors, when you hear him talk about film, it's just really interesting. As like heard his commentary during this whole thing, he seems so really gracious, And if what I'm getting from him as a creative is that he likes working with the actors to help develop the characters that they do. Like his work with um like everybody, his work in Blade Runner with
Mm.
um Roy Batty's, I know his name. I'm
Rutger
just
Hauer.
having a boom moment.
Rutger
Rutger
Hauer.
Hauer, yes. Rutger Hauer coming up with the lines for his last scene and other
Oh,
little
Tears in the
creative things.
Rain?
Yeah, yeah, this was amazing stuff. And he allowed him to play in that field, which is not something that a lot of directors would let people do. So I
Yeah, there
do.
was a long monologue there, and Rutger Hauer kind of walked away, crossed some things out, and ended up penning one of the greatest death monologues of all time.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great. And so the more I am exposed to his films, the more I appreciate his work. Definitely, this was one of his, one of his wonderful creations here. But and he did not create it, but he, steered it in the proper direction. Being a director,
I
Uh,
always wanted to write. So I have all these ideas. Like right now, I'm working on the Empress Theodora stuff, but I've always had it in my head to try to write and pitch a screenplay of all of these replicants on a distant world
yes.
and show the beginning of a massive uprising on a planet
Okay,
with Roy
please.
Batty.
No, 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 don't say anymore.
Why not?
Because yeah, you just that's exactly what I want. I want a prequel to that
Yeah, well,
incredible moment.
because it would recontextualize and in a positive way, I think Blade Runner, because
Yeah,
I was going to show hundreds of replicants in this, if not thousands. And by the time they get to Earth, there's just 5 and
yeah,
then just 1. And then he dies. And, so
yeah,
like, basically this uprising comes in at such a whimper at the end,
yeah.
you know, and show attack ships on fire, show us Tannhauser Gate,
Oh
so,
yeah, and then I'm not sure if you know because I have a secret thing going on, but
oh,
we need to talk about that in full detail because I love your vision because I wrote about it, and also there's more to it want to discuss with you. So
oh yeah,
we're gonna
awesome.
put press, yeah, we're gonna press pause on that conversation because
You got it, Retro.
it's juicy. Um, I have thoughts, and we've got the lovely Sherry. Oh my goodness, so good to see you. I love your avatar, by the way. And let's see, Lance says that
Love it.
Koto is one of the finest actor who's ever lived. Yeah, he's really great. I loved him. I do love Live and Let Die. It's one of my favorite Bond movies.
Also, The
And
Running Man.
and yes, he was in The Running Man. And loved I love. Oh no, he was in The Running Man?
Yeah, with Schwarzenegger,
Oh yes, he's The Running Man. Okay, yes.
which they're about to remake.
Yeah, I have to revisit that movie, definitely. Oh my goodness, I'm getting close to the bottom. Okay. Who else is here? I see Charles Radcliffe. So good to see you. And let's see. Andrew mentions
Like
one of my
tears
favorite lines, like "Tears in the
in
Rain."
rain.
Um, and uh, yeah, I think we're down to the end here. And so good, so good, so good. Okay, so now we're at a point where we need to start getting things ready for the actual watch. So for anyone who's just gotten here, we have a link at the very top of the chat on YouTube where you can go to that link and you can see the movie. And if you have your own copy, that's really great. If you have Disney Plus, you can watch it on there. It's still my mind is still like trying to understand, like, oh, where, like, how is it that that this franchise is owned by Disney? I mean, it doesn't seem like the right match.
Yeah, there's that meme going around that says Disney bought Fox. Disney so that makes the Alien Queen a Disney princess. I was like, no.
Wow, that's actually she would be the evil queen, one of
Yeah,
the
she'd be the
evil
evil
queens,
queen, I guess. Yeah.
and and Ripley would be the princess. So wild. It just does not seem like the proper match. And this is another thing too. Why not sell it to like them appropriate, maybe do an exchange or something like,
Something.
yeah, just seems odd.
Disney's
Um,
lost in the woods right now. Hopefully they find their way out.
I hope so too. They had something there for a while there, but all right, so just to give like a little quickie bit of information in case there's anyone who needs any more information on this. Alien 1979, directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon, based on his story, and then also co-written by Ronald Suchet. Um, Suset. Sorry, I said his name. Shusett. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Shusett. Ronald's actually the one who came up with this, you know, um, face hugger idea, which I think is a very key element to the Alien franchise. We have actors. Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton,
Hmm.
John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah, star-studded.
Yeah, I mean, and these are the best of the best. Also, haven't talked about yet the artistry of H.R. Giger,
Mm,
who did a lot of the and all of the artwork concerning the aliens and the alien suit. So he worked on getting that visualized. And
yeah,
also, we have the legendary Ron Cobb doing the concept art for this as well. And his list is just a long list of incredible movies. He also was worked on the Dark Star movie as well. Um,
that's right.
so yes, and also Chris Foss is also another person who worked on some of the concept artwork. So it's definitely a like a list of all the best of the business that we're like people are still making remakes of the movies they worked on. Very incredible. Now, before we get to there, I do want to put up to get ourselves hyped and to get ourselves ready. Play any commercials that you need to play before anything. Get yourself set up and grab your snacks and things so we can start the party. So let's go.
Alien night.
Come on, it's party time. Hear the alarms chime. Let's watch a movie. It's time to get groovy. It's time to party, party, party. We got to party, party, party. It's time to party, party, party. Party, party, party. All night long. All night long.
ready?
All right.
And now we're going to put up the banner.
All right.
That's done. Thank you to everybody who's been telling me to put up the banner. We finally got it up. So just to let everybody know, I'm going to start putting up the banner right after the hype song for the watch party. Okay, so let's see if I've got everything. I need a timer. Oh, here's my timer. And just for any newcomers, the way it works is that you have your copy, we have our copies, and we watch our copies together. I'll not be able to see the chat while this is happening. So do let any newcomers come that that I will not be able to see the chat. But I do have an auxiliary computer over here, so I can occasionally see some of the chats when there's nothing riveting on screen. But this is a movie where it's really important to see every nook and detail. Let's see. And so during the countdown, okay, during this watch party, I will have a visualizer, which you will be able to see the closed captioning for the movie. It's really probably the best way to stay on track with where we are at the
Yep.
in the movie, to use the visualizer. But I'll also have the timer, and it'll be on this ledge right here, so that way you'll be able to see, if you know, just to give you a ballpark. Okay, so get ready. 5. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm going to count from 5 to 1, and then after 1, that's when we'll press play. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. All right, go.
All
I'm gonna have
right.
to catch up
We
with you
are
guys.
on our way.
Yes. Oh no, I'm like, I have to catch up with
Donald
you
Trump.
guys.
What's that?
I have to catch up with you guys. My version timed out on me. I hate when that happens.
Oh yeah, and the glyphs. What a great way to open the movie. The alien glyphs.
Ooh.
And you know, it's funny. I've seen this movie a million times. I still love watching those glyphs form the word alien.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm like a second behind. Oh, maybe are you a little further on? Are the glyphs still forming for you?
Yes.
Okay, good, good, good. Um,
Jerry Goldsmith. This is one of the more
yes.
bizarre. I should say bizarre because I love the soundtrack, but it's oddly magical sounding at times, and
Mhm.
it feels like it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yes, I mean, from what I heard, how Ridley explained it was that he remixed a lot of the stuff because in order to get it to match up just right.
Oh,
And I thought it was very interesting. You have those moments of fear where you feel all of that panic and all that stuff, but then you have the beginning where it feels more magical, like you were saying,
right.
um and not so much, I wouldn't say necessarily whimsical, but there's just this something that kind of matches the exact moment where you're kind of not going to get a precursor to what's going to happen, to the point where it gives away its secrets, because there's a lot of surprises too in this story. Um, we all know a lot of the surprises just because of pop culture and everything. Probably seen it millions of times. But when you were first watching this for the first time, you didn't. There were lots of things you didn't know,
Right.
and so that I love the fact that you're unpeeling all of this slowly as you go. And I
Right.
love the way everything here was actually built. This is actually a set that was built.
Yes.
Um, and
So
it's
this is part of
very
that drive for authentic imagery that
yes,
was it was obviously artificial in the 50s and 60s,
yeah,
until 2001 came out, and then even after that they struggled to really get it right, and then suddenly in the late 70s these visions could be fully realized,
yes,
and they were, that's physical. You could touch this world, you are inside that hallway.
yeah. And this is a labyrinth, wouldn't you call it, right? This is
100%. The labyrinthine imagery is very, very strong in both this film and the next one. They're showing you the labyrinth. I mean, they're
yeah.
literally spending their opening scene showing you this
Yes.
labyrinth that will have to be navigated for survival.
Yes, and they did the same thing in The Shining too, where they took a few moments in the beginning of the film to show you this entire hotel, you know?
100%.
I love that.
Yep.
I love
Yep.
that.
That's very strong. And the sound effects in this film, they only come from this movie. So when you hear the bling, all the bings and pangs,
Yes,
and I love it.
just is so cool.
And by the way, the name of the ship is called the Nostromo. For those
Yeah.
of you who don't know, this is named after a novel by Joseph Conrad, who wrote a book called Nostromo: A Tale of the Seaboard back in 1904. And
Oh,
in there, in this novel, there is a city called Sulaco, which is the name of the ship in Aliens.
interesting.
So yeah, both of these ship names come from a Joseph Conrad novel.
See, that is a deep cut, and again, how thorough was the writing in Aliens. My
Well,
gosh.
and you're getting also as a view, like you're in a movie theater, you're
Yes,
seeing this for the first time, and it's unsettling. You're in this confined space. You already feel confined.
yes,
Now, this was one of the few spots they used the color white to kind of offset it. So this is supposed to be a safe place.
yes,
And what's interesting here too is you don't even see Ripley. She's the lead role. She's not even in the
yeah,
opening scene where they kind of introduce these characters.
yeah.
It's like I said, we take it all for granted today that this is just perfectly done. But from a filmmaking point of view, is that you can imagine someone saying, "Shouldn't we open with Ripley?" And
Yeah,
and this guy was like, "No." So like it could have been a bad choice,
yeah.
and you're just fixed on this guy Kane. And I love the time lapse here as he's waking up.
Yeah, I love that because everybody has like a different bedside manner, the way they they wake up.
I always like the way they wake up in Aliens better. Everyone's
Oh, yeah, yeah,
whipping and giving each other, some crap.
yeah. There are different type of um, groups too.
Crap.
Those are
Yeah, big time.
military people who've probably fought together and have each other's back,
Right.
whereas these guys are out for themselves, pretty much.
Trying to get a buck.
Yeah, this is just a job for them. Oh,
I
do you
keep
guys
seeing
remember
corner.
those birds?
Yeah, the drinking Harvey, I think they were called, right?
I think so that they just kept like tipping over.
Yeah, I think they're called drinking Harveys. Let me see.
Interesting. The
Huh.
bonuses.
I'm not finding it. Maybe that's not what they're called.
Yeah, if anybody knows about those birds, what they're called, those little
Yeah, and and I like that, they're just kind of showcasing the different personalities here.
yeah,
You settled it, you kind of move through these corridors, and You're like, okay, I don't know if I like this place, but this is where this story is going to take place. And then, here's the guys, these are blue collar guys. They're not NASA clean cut athlete geniuses. These are, Tom, Dick, and Harry, next door, And then, of course, this is the inner sanctum of the ship.
Mother.
It's white. It's one of the only other area that's white. It's got an artificial breathing sound for mother. So this is the nerve center of the ship. And again, I love this.
If you notice, the lights are not all on, that they're various blinking, so it feels like it's alive too.
Yeah, yep, like it's thinking live.
Yeah.
It's funny, every key that he hits makes a bing bang 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 sound. And well, it's funny because it's like it works for the movie, but it's like I could never write a story in there. Could you imagine listening to that as you're trying to type?
Well, it depends on. I mean, do you remember typewriters?
Oh yeah, yes.
Because I was trained on a typewriter, and I was like,
yeah, totally. I actually started my first writing on typewriters. Remember whiteout? You had to go back and white out things, and then I remember I got a word processor for Christmas one year, and man, that was a game changer.
Oh yeah, definitely. If anybody in the chat has ever typed on a typewriter before, please, can you just type in me?
Yeah, so I mean, the movie is really reestablishing what space could look like, and again, we just don't think about it today. But you're sitting here, you're like, oh my God, the ship it's not dogfighting, it's not fast, it's not sleek. It's bulky and rather non-aerodynamic. It looks like just a refinery up in space. And then you've got these, blue collar working class people operating the machinery, and, no helmets on, it just looks like you're a workspace, So again, viewers at the time would be very disoriented by this and asking themselves in the theater, do I believe this? And I think the answer, because it was filmed so well, was yes, this is believable. These look like what maybe in the future, this is what astronauts do, So
yeah, I mean, that's probably the way anybody gets a job. You get on some ship and you stay on there for years, possibly.
Yeah. So Ridley Scott, I think one of his great skills in this film was to redeploy images and settings in space in a way that we had not really seen before. It's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's not all white. It's like industrial. Gone is that NASA feel.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not Star Wars, where these guys are all swashbuckling, they're all buckaroos. These guys are working men. I really like Tom Skerritt in this role.
Oh, yeah.
We intercepted a train, and it's funny because that's such almost like a cliche line, but it's delivered in this setting, and for some reason it just works so perfectly.
Yeah.
Don't know. Yeah, Hawaiian shirts. Like this could have been a disaster.
Yeah.
It's not my contract.
I love it. He's like, what is this?
He just reminds. He's like the kid in school that just keeps messing with the teacher.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's some fine print for you, huh?
Yeah.
There's a clause in your contract. Penalty of total forfeiture of shares. You got that? I love it. That's like a teacher. We're going in. Oh, I love it. And it's funny because it really it establishes that these guys aren't, they're not explorers. They're not
they're not equipped for this.
spelunking. Yeah, like they're not. They're regular guys that are going to do this other job that they're not really. It's not the job they were really hired to do, but the job that they had to do if certain conditions arise.
Yeah.
So we're going in. Even I love the way he makes fun of that line, because it's like these guys aren't built for this.
Yeah. And the truth be told, they should not have been sent in the first place. It should have been, you send your scientists over there,
Yeah.
or even a military, operation to do a rescue.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I actually tried to write a script. This was bad. This must have been 1988, 1989, because it was before Alien 3 came out. But I literally started by hand in a notebook, writing a sequel to Aliens. And in my story, what was the content? In my story, it got to Gateway Station. Remember Gateway Station in Aliens, where she wakes up? She's on that orbiting medical facility, and that's where she meets Burke and all that.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna have the alien make it onto, I forgot how he got there. I think he was brought in, but and start to take over Gateway Station, and it was the orbit starts to decay, and there was this threat that if it crashes, all these things could be all over the Earth. And I think we mentioned this, but Blade Runner,
Yes.
actually it takes place in the alien world, technically.
Yes. Yeah. They're
there's a
both in the
crossover.
same world, and that's because Ridley Scott directed both of the original movies for those two franchises.
That's right. And I just, with all the crossover franchise work they're doing now, I don't know why can't we come up with something here?
Yeah.
Blade Runner and Aliens, we can't make this work.
Yeah. And also Predator is also in this world too. So
and was
it's
it
already been
yeah, Predator. I read all the
Yeah.
comic books back in the late 90s or mid 90s, Aliens versus Predator, and I loved them. I absolutely loved them. I also have a concept. I actually designed this concept for a role-playing game in the Alien universe using Free League Publishing role-playing rules. And my idea for if I was going to redo an Alien movie and break away from the old formats and still do something that was interesting, all this time in these films, they're trying to, Weyland Yutani, they're trying to steal the alien for bioweapons.
Yes.
So what I was going to do was open a story with a large scale in this world,
Yes.
bulky
a
military confrontation on a planet. I was going to show, different ships coming in, do strafing runs, and have this really high-tech battle on this distant world with these bleak atmospheres and everything. And they're at a stalemate. I was going to show large aerial views of what looks like trenches that go for miles, where there are all these soldiers, and it's a stalemate. And they decide that they're going to use the bioweapons division, and they release an alien on the enemy, on one of the enemy factions. And of course, it's going to just go haywire and show it being used as a bioweapon, and then how it backfires and everyone goes down.
Ooh, I like that. I like that so much. Yes.
Yeah, and this is a pretty intense landing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the soft landings you get in most science fiction films or Star Trek, where you just beam down. This looked like practically like they crashed. So what I appreciate is they show that even to land a large ship on a planet surface is dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Even the landing is dangerous. So it sets a tone, and I think it gives a level of reality and consequence that keeps the audience going, oh man, everything could get these guys. And that's just the equipment.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I think this movie does something where it keeps you engaged all the time, but by just bringing up, like, little scenarios of smaller things that are happening with just
Right.
their jobs.
Right. Now,
And
in the heroine's labyrinth model, you
Mhm.
have something called the cult of deception, which is a larger agenda that the heroine does not know about, and how she is misdirected or redirected based on this large scale deception. Happens in a lot of heroine-centric stories. And Wayland Yutani represents the cult of deception in
Yes,
Alien, and Aliens.
yes,
Um, and so there is
absolutely.
a large scale deception at work, and she and her whole crew are misdirected here. And people have asked me, like, well, Ripley, doesn't she leave home? She leaves her native culture to go on an adventure. That is absolutely a hero's journey aspect,
Yes,
when you leave your native culture. However, she's not, her native culture comes with her on this ship, on the Nostromo. So she is
yeah,
very much still surrounded by her native culture. So in that sense, there is still the native culture coming with her
yes,
in this inside the Nostromo.
yeah. And I think, like, if you really look at this story, though, there's no denying that you definitely feel some of the hero's journey stuff, but it's not really that evident. Like, and when I learned about the heroine's labyrinth, I was like, yeah, that's it, because of the deception. Everybody's really under this horrible deception that they're just checking out this little place, and mother is learning about, this new alien, which they've been doing on a lot of different planets, that's behind the scenes, and is looking specifically for a weapon,
Right.
and that supersedes everything, everybody's life. They're basically, fodder at this point in time.
Well, I just noticed in so many heroine-centric stories how often heroines are either lied to, misdirected, or redirected. Redirected is maybe the most innocent of all of it, but somebody kind of nudges the heroine into a different direction. And I was like, why is this happening so much? And that's where, by the way, I love that shot.
Oh,
Now,
yeah, it's great.
this even sort of, what's interesting is in heroes' journeys, this is a threshold. So there's no threshold guardian like you would expect here. But
Yeah,
when that door opens, it's a whole different world on the other side, man. And it is a harsh world with that giant siren, almost like a lighthouse spinning around. It's
yeah,
just very intense. So, and that is what's called liminal space in the hero's journey. Liminal space is the space between two destinations, and it's usually vast, empty space. So it could be outer space, it could be an ocean, a desert, and in this case, this awful storm littered world. And the storm, it's like metal dust in the
yeah.
air. And here we get what you would see again in Aliens, the idea of viewing the drama through a TV
Yeah,
screen.
yes. DJ Knight says, yes, the military, he agrees. I'm not sure if he agrees. Sorry, I get mixed up. Sorry. The Space Army. Yeah, I'm sure. And I know that Whalen has a lot of uh, military contracts. They could have sent those guys out.
Oh, yeah. But I think if you can, we saw one platoon go into sublevel 3, but what if
Yeah,
you had massive, large scale armies locked in a stalemate, and slowly the battlefield slowly descends into madness on both sides as these aliens attacked? I would love that.
yeah, yeah. Because basically, what they do is they wound you and save you for an egg.
Right. Yeah, you would have
And
guys just missing on both
yeah,
sides. Things are what I would do is I would have it working at first where the side they targeted does start getting weaker and weaker. And then eventually you could overrun their position because of these. But what do you do once you overrun their position? You know, those aliens are still out there. And now your guys are at risk. Yeah. How long will it take to fix? About 24 hours.
I like the fact that they're like drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes.
Exactly. Like you would never see astronauts in 2001 smoking a cigarette, you know?
Yeah. And talking about the money that they should be getting, negotiating. Like that's real life stuff. And I think a lot of people get the idea that, oh, when people talk about that in movies, they're obsessed with it. It's like, no, they're just like, don't you talk about your contracts, like, or like make sure that you're being compensated for your work? It's like natural.
Right.
Hopefully, hopefully everybody's making sure that they're getting paid for what they deserve.
Well, and you have to remember, America was more of a blue collar country back then.
Yeah,
I feel
70s
like
was definitely moving towards that.
What's that?
Yeah, definitely the 70s. There was a really big, effort. A lot of movies about blue collar.
Well, once we started moving our factories overseas to like China and Mexico, so a lot of the blue collar jobs went with them.
Yeah.
And America through the 90s started to become much more white collar. And but back in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot more of a blue collar presence, I would say, in American culture. And so this kind of banter would be perfectly normal. So, maybe millennials would think they're overthinking it, but they weren't there in the 80s when this was normal. Or 70s, I should say.
By the way, I just want to say that the visuals for all of this, it looks so good.
So good. And the design of that ship.
Yeah, it's haunting. It's unique and unusual, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that's pretty.
Well, and think about it. It's kind of it's a new moment in film. It's not like we landed on a planet and there's aliens here. No, there's an alien ship that crashed and we homed in on its beacon. So that's different. And so Dan O'Bannon, who wrote this script and did Dark Star, after Dark Star, he ended up going to France because there was an Alejandro Jodorowsky was working on Dune. He was going to do Dune, and it was there was a lot of hype for this. And O'Bannon went over there.
Yeah, I love the documentary on that.
And yes, Jodorowsky had Salvador Dali involved in this, and he hired a guy named H.R. Giger.
Yes.
And that's where O'Bannon met. Is it Giger or Geiger?
I've heard it called Giger.
Okay. So that's where Dan O'Bannon met H.R. Giger, was on this Dune set, which ended up getting canceled famously. Mick Jagger was going to play Fade Rautha, which I think it's funny because they instead of Mick Jagger, they went with Sting. So it had to be a music rock star in that position for some reason.
Yeah.
But then, but he brought in H.R. Giger so he designed the biomechanical look of the alien. He also designed that derelict spacecraft. And I would say that he found an opportunity to create something so memorable with that derelict spacecraft that had you hired a lesser artist, it might have just looked like a crashed spaceship and nothing more. Instead, you get this iconic, nightmarish image from far off of a ship that you just can't make sense of.
Yeah. I mean, the shape of it is so unique and unusual.
Yes.
And the interior is like black on black on, one of, how many different shades of black can you see? And like some of it's shiny, some of it's curved, some of it has straight lines.
It's asymmetrical.
Yeah, just a wonderful design full of like detail and complexity.
Right.
And you want to know who made this.
Yeah.
Like what alien made this? And
Yeah, I just want to
we
give
need
a
to
shout
explore
out to
that.
all those concept artists in
Oh
these,
yeah,
especially in this era, the Ralph
yes,
McQuarries and Doug Chang's and H.R. Giger. Like, had they not been that level of artist, what became iconic moments in film may have just been a
yes,
poise scene here and there.
yes. And Rob Cobb as well. He's
Yeah,
so good.
100%.
Yeah. Look at this. Ah,
Yeah, this is
I
a
love
famous
it.
scene too.
Oh, by the way, the what you're seeing are children, not at the actual actors, 'cause they wanted to maximize the scale of this.
Really?
Yes, I believe there are two of Ridley's children in this.
Oh, I didn't know
Casting,
that.
but yeah, they wanted to show off the scale of how big this place is.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a pretty iconic image too. That space jockey, they call him.
Yeah,
He's looking through some sort of telescope, and this is your first clue. He's burst open from the inside. God, they just don't make movies like this.
yeah. And this jockey here is very, very similar to a movie called A Planet of Vampires. It was done in the 50s. Was it the 60s? I believe. I think it's the 60s. Sorry, 60s. I did a review on it. It also has a
1965.
yes, which also has a giant alien remain, and also that particular alien did send out a beacon for help as
Oh,
well.
really?
Yes, very interesting connection there. And
Wow.
another movie that I can think of was uh, eh, Queen of Blood.
Oh, yeah. You did a review on that recently, didn't you?
No, oh, well, quite a few. It was kind of like a few years back,
Oh,
and it does have a female alien queen that lays eggs. But and it's really interesting because the last scene of the movie is, of course, uh, a scientist sees these eggs and they're like, "Ooh, we have, what they're planning on doing, they don't, is a mystery, but they're really excited to have these alien eggs." But she picks off every single character one by one that's on the ship, and the person to save everybody actually happens to be the one female officer in the movie.
wow.
There are lots of little similarities. There's actually a scene there where she comes down the hallway and it's just flashing lights, and
Really?
there's an emphasis on her mouth, in particular, her teeth. It's very, very, uh, a
Wow. And
yeah,
which movie was this?
Queen of Blood.
Queen of Blood.
Yes, yes. John Saxon is in it, and so is, um, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Um, yeah, well, John Saxon's in it. I'll
Okay.
my memory will come back for it. But it's a, kind of it's definitely a low budget movie. But it has those elements, whereas, and I don't know if it was accidental or if it was influenced by, but a lot of these like elements of an alien creature, which I thought was really
Wow.
fascinating. Uh-oh. He's Go back, dude. Don't don't investigate. Oh no.
There's a mist.
That's such a wonderful touch, right? That blue light coming in.
Yeah, I love it. And it reacts when broken. Yeah, James Cameron, for whatever reason, decided not to keep the mist in Aliens.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this thing looks organic. Wait, there's movement.
Ah, electrical sizzle. Oh no, he activated it. Run away now. Oh, it's moving in there.
Don't do it.
Run away.
Yeah, and this was the design of this and the way they built it looks so freaking real.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And
That's
they're
a
like,
creepy little flutter.
yeah. And they're like, oh, it's organic life. It might be alive. I mean, this is where you get this team of scientists to look at this and run out of there. Um,
Correct.
so, and oh, by the way, this is like cow intestines and fresh meat that
Yummy.
and to create that living, meaty substance in the egg.
Yeah, with like the white veiny looking things.
Yeah, that's ugh.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
you,
of course you're like, why are you leaning over that thing, man? Stay
yeah,
away, my friend.
you need a scientist on that.
Right. And this thing goes right through his helmet mask.
Yeah.
And they're all just kind of passing time there on the Nostromo. And so here's an example of they're not misleading the heroine, but they're undermining her here. Ripley gives the right command under pressure. And I actually love the way she handles herself here. Something's attached itself to him. What kind of thing? Like her leadership here is perfect. And she's she's not like raising her voice and, trying to, out dominance him. She's just telling him, I can't do that.
Yeah.
She's being pressured to do something she knows is wrong. And she says,
Yeah.
no, I can't do that. And then this jackhole. Yes, I read you. The answer is negative. I love it. Totally
And you know
undermines
what?
her.
She was completely right. They would be yeah. She's completely right.
But it was the cult. So this is why this is important in story. The cult of deception explains why she's being circumvented in that situation.
Yeah. Ew, I love the way the creature is still moving. Oh, so scary to see the
Oof, this is
thing.
so believable looking.
Yeah, I remember seeing this for the first time and being just totally like creeped out by it.
Yes. Well, and it's an intimidating design. It's spider-like, it's crab-like. This thing
Oh,
crawls really fast. It's also kind of like skin-y, And it's just everything about this thing is menacing. One of the digitals. I love that.
it's tightening its grip around his neck.
Yep.
I'm like, no.
And it's funny how they're not wearing masks or any protective visor, nothing.
I love the way, like, the way Ripley is, like, staring at this, like, "Oh my god." At this point, she's just another, like, she's not the focus of the story, but she's
Not at all.
like,
She's still just a background crew member.
yeah.
It reminds me of like a Star Trek scanner.
Yeah.
And here
Ugh.
Ash does everything he can to keep this thing alive.
Yeah.
We got to get it off of him.
Let's not be too hasty.
Sounds like Treebeard. I
The
like
way he looks at
Dallas
him.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Dallas here. He's like, I don't care. Take it off. Yeah, he was pretty decisive there. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We don't even know about the blood yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lucky his hand wasn't underneath that.
Yeah, I love this part where they're like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, molecular acid.
They have to stop it before it, put something underneath it, dudes.
Yep. Thing's going to eat through the hole. I love how it creates kind of a mini emergency here without
Yeah.
even doing anything.
Yeah. They have to keep going down until they get to.
Yep. See, I feel like this is, again, a good filmmaking. You know, you spend the time dealing with the problems that are created. You don't rush through it to get to the good stuff. I just feel like modern filmmakers today would skip showing going down, down, and down, like a repeated scene over and over again,
Yeah.
to get to the end of where this thing's, it stops.
In fact, I'm noticing a lot of films don't even show you this kind of detail. They won't have the consequences,
Oh
right?
yeah, consequences are the big missing factor in a lot of these modern
Yeah.
films.
Yeah. And I would say, like, they did try to do it. Aliens, though, I think could have been even better if they, at like even better, a better movie if they even emphasized this acid blood even more. But they used it well. I think they did. But
They did use it,
yeah. But I
but I
think
have
there
heard
would
that
be a,
argument before.
yeah, I think they could have used it more. But that would be my only critique of that excellent movie. So don't come for me. But the acid is like, where do you, when it sprays, like, where does it spray? Like everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was another thing in that new Alien Romulus movie. They have I don't even feel like I'm spoiling it because the movie's not even really that good, but they have acid in zero gravity. And this chick decides to try to navigate it. And she like starts moving through. I'm like, what? No, I'm like, no way. Is that a practical move?
oh man.
One
How much better
so
how much better would it have been for her to, like, get her arm and she loses an arm because of, like, that's a
really.
struggle. How do you do things with a missing arm now?
I mean, one salt crystal size grain could do terrible damage to you.
Exactly, and you can't see that. You can't
Right.
see that. So I know something to give you uh, a feeling like it's not magical, you know?
Right.
What are the chances? 1 in a million. It can't happen. 1 in a million can't happen all the time to your characters.
Correct.
Oh, look at Ash just studying this sucker. Just
Yeah, this is
loving it.
great too because they actually show you. They actually allow you to take a good look at this thing And in retrospect, we know exactly what it is now. But you're getting a look at it right there.
Yeah.
And I love how quickly he turns it off. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's nothing. Ash plays it pretty cool here with his deceptive behavior. So this is a misdirection. Oh, no. Is he talking to
Ripley?
Yeah, he's talking to Ripley. Do you want something? This is where I feel like she handled it a little weak. I don't blame her or anything like that, but I felt like Ash kind of brushed her off without any consequence here. And he was in the wrong. Oh, it's funny. My wife and I'll use this line. I'm still collating.
Collating.
We use it all the time as like, I haven't done something yet.
Yeah.
So, like she's like, Doug, did you take out the trash yet? I'm like,
I'm
I'm still
collating.
collating.
Oh man.
And sometimes she'll get ahead. Oh, I take it you're still collating. You haven't done this thing yet. I'm like, yes. And you let him in. That's a great line. I was obeying a direct order. See, now I feel like this would not need to be said, but I have to remind myself, this isn't necessarily a military group.
Yes.
You risk everybody's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I've jeopardized the rest of us, but that's a risk I was willing to take. That's a pretty
Yeah.
big risk
Yeah.
for a science officer. Great thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
He basically just goes back off.
I think at this point in the story, though, she wanted to approach the subject, but I don't think she wanted to fight about the subject.
No, I
She
don't think
just
she wanted
wanted-
to fight, but I feel like she should have said something like, I'll have to put that in a report.
Ooh.
Just something that that this decision you made, it's not just that you made a bad call. Who cares? We'll move on. He made a serious decision that
Breaks the
she'll have to
rules.
report.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. Oh, I like that, Doug. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, it just suggest, because the way it was written, the way that scene plays out is just that it's a matter of opinion whether or
Yeah.
not it matters that he broke that rule. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's really just a matter of he thinks it's not a big deal and she thinks it is. He broke a rule, so now what? It would go into a report somewhere, and he should be worried about that. And I think it would also explain, on another level anyway, why he tried to kill her later.
Yeah.
Because she's the one filing that report. And Kay Oho is here from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh wow, hi. And I see Ruby Rage as well. Love the name. Kay says greetings. Oh, greetings to you as well, Kay.
Yeah, Ruby Rage, I agree with you, because
that
Dallas should know the rules more than anybody.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't care. Open up the door, Ripley. That is a strange position for him to take. I don't mind it, because it shows that he's scared, he's nervous, he's willing to break protocol on his own. But you're right. That was the wrong thing to do. And it also sent a signal to someone like Ash that, maybe it is okay to break this rule.
Yeah. But also too, not only that, I mean,
Look how they leave the door open.
We're getting a. Oh yeah, I know. They don't quite know what they're dealing with right now. But
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to point the door was still on there. They
I
finally
know,
closed.
like, yeah, I don't think they know what the heck they were what was, what the problem what they were dealing with, they had no idea.
Right.
We do, though.
And K Oho, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm saying it could be K Ojo, but something in my gut tells me K Oho. K Oho asks, have you seen the documentary Memory Origins of Alien that came out in 2019? I have not,
No,
but I will check that out. That sounds very
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
Now, I have to say, I appreciate this as a film because I remember when I watched it for the first time, um,
Ooh,
there is
ooh.
definitely a yikes. So here's this menacing thing. We get a good jump scare out of it, and yet we're immediately relieved of the pressure, right? This thing kind of is lifeless. Kane seems to be okay. It's a surprising relief of tension, which doesn't
Yeah,
always happen in movies. Usually the tension increases. Here you get the sudden relief of the tension, and of course it's a false relief. That thing is gross, ain't it?
it's yeah. It was made with shellfish, the
Yeah,
innards of different shellfish, and, looks so realistic and
it totally does. I'm pretty it's pretty safe to say it's not a zombie.
yeah.
It's like Ash. I love how condescending he is here. Safe to assume it isn't a zombie. And look at him, he's like, Dallas, don't listen to this crazy chick.
See, if they had only just done a scan of his body, they would see there was something inside. That's another protocol they should have followed.
Well, but Ash is in charge of that. And of
Yeah,
course,
so he's not gonna tell anybody.
right. Ruby Rage asks, did the computer mother relate the secret order to Dallas, crew expendable, and Dallas didn't take it seriously? The film does answer this. The answer is no. It did not tell Dallas. I'll point it out later when Ripley goes in there, and it says
Yeah,
science officer's eyes only.
yeah,
So Mother only issued that secret directive to the science officer, which is Ash. So that's
yeah.
why Ash knows, but not Dallas. She initiates an override, and that's how she finds out, even though she's not the science officer, what the cult of deception is. And the reason I call it a cult of deception is because it directs behavior of the characters. So like a cult, there's it's a system of there's a secret agenda that's directing the behavior and manners and level of misdirection of the characters.
Yeah,
Yep, you got it, Ruby Rage. Great. That was a solid question because without that, you would assume Dallas would also know.
yeah. And I think the movie's really trying to impress upon us that that Dallas is quite a softie. Like, he just wants to get back home. That's all
Yeah,
he's like, "Come on, I just wanna get out of here."
yeah, he's
It
like Pontius Pilate. He's always, he's kind of like, he's the guy, like the dad. He'll knock some heads together, keep everyone from arguing and stuff like that, and keep them focused on the job. But anything outside of that, he's very weak, in my opinion, as a leader.
Yeah,
For him to defer a big decision to the science officer, Ripley's right to push back on that. And so Ripley's already showing at this stage in the film that she's got a greater sensibility than the rest of the characters here. And
yeah,
and it doesn't, she's not like modern films, they show heroines upstaging all the characters around her, and it makes her not likable, oddly. That is
yeah,
not happening here. In fact, most of these guys, including Dallas, still appear rather competent at their job.
yeah.
And even though we disagree with Dallas, we think that he might be a decent, he's
Human
probably a
being,
good
right? Yeah,
leader if nothing bad happens, right? If they're
yeah,
just mining this ore, he's probably fine. But now that they're getting a little loose and getting these other directives and these other tasks, he doesn't make a lot of good calls. So you're seeing in the script, in the movie, Ripley does have the right sensibility as a leader. And the fact that she's being dismissed by the other characters doesn't make her look weak. It makes her vulnerable to these characters, and it makes us like her even more. We know she's right, and yet her message isn't getting out. And so, to writers out there, you don't have to have your heroine dominate every guy. The fact that she loses some of the early battles is what makes us like her and root for her. We want her to get her point through to these guys.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this movie and feeling just very happy to see Kane was okay. It's like, it's almost like the movie's going to, almost like you're not going to have to go through a terrible movie. Maybe we'll get off the hook on this one and everything will just be fine. But of course, we know that that's not true, but it feels like it.
Yeah. Yeah, because at this point, they're ready to go home. He's fine.
Yeah.
The alien thing died. Yeah.
I wish from a script point of view, and I hate even saying this because it's super nitpicky, but he said, I had a dream about smothering. Yeah. I wish he told us something specific. Like,
Ash picked up on something because he did like a kind of a squint when he looked at. He's like,
Right. Well, to me, to say I had a dream about smothering is a little easy. Yeah. I would love to have seen, did someone put a pillow on your face or, something specific in a dream that you're like, oh, well, I get why he would do that. And then even right there, we talk about the blue collar working class, I'm buying, Yeah. Love it. And I love Ash. Look at Ash here.
Look at Ash looking at him like that. And
the secret agenda.
Yeah.
And this is just freaking cinema gold.
Yeah. Here. Oh, yeah. This is really awesome.
One of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema and all time. In fact, back in like the mid 70s when O'Bannon first wrote this script, the guy who read it said, it's an average script, but it's got one great scene. This is the scene that the producer in Hollywood was talking about. So even when the script was not ready, this scene stood out in typewritten letters as something that was a great scene.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows the story, but Ridley Scott filmed this without telling them what he was going to do here.
Yeah.
So right here.
They knew that something was going to happen. They didn't expect quite as much.
He said, just restrain him on the table and then we'll cut. So they're restraining him on the table. And then this happens.
Yeah. That was a surprise to her.
So that was a real reaction because they weren't expecting that. So they're like, what the?
But the next one, too, is another real reaction because they didn't expect so much blood to be squirted everywhere.
And she actually falls, Cartwright. She slipped on the blood and wiped out. That thing is nasty even by today's standards. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
And I love how you can see like the oxygen pulsing in one of its like veins.
Ew.
So gross. I mean, it's just... This is one of the few scenes that doesn't hold right there. That doesn't quite hold up, but it's also not egregious either. And these guys are just stunned.
And
I love that expression.
Ash just was like, "Don't kill it, don't kill it." It's like he could have killed it right then, and it would have been that would have been over the story. It would have saved themselves.
But I love movies where when you watch it again, you can see Ash's agenda constantly at work.
Yeah, and you can see also too all of the opportunities to change this scenario. There were a lot of times here where they could have been saved.
Yeah. And Gary and Kay Oho are hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. From Spaceballs.
Spaceballs, yes.
Yeah, what a
Nice
great
one,
spoof
Gary.
that was. Same actor.
Yeah. Yeah, he reprised his role for that movie. So good.
And I feel like they would have, if this movie was filmed today, this scene wouldn't exist. I think they would freeze and save the body for study.
Ooh, that would have been uh the right thing to do, actually, right?
Well, so in the old Navy, if someone died, you had to threw them into the water. You didn't save them
Yes,
for burial because there's no way to store a body. You
yes.
can't have it decaying on the ship. So you had to throw them out to sea, and you would cover them in it just like that. And Star Trek does this. Star Trek 2, they shoot Spock out into space because that's a naval funeral, basically.
Yes.
And but I feel like here at this level
This
of
is
technology, they could freeze them and they could bring them home and study him, because I mean he's been in contact with an alien.
with an alien. That is, to me, I would say the scientific advancement would be great. I mean, there could be some traces of proteins or different
Yeah,
chemicals that they could
yeah,
try
some
to figure out, like,
DNA.
yeah, anything that could help with fighting back or resisting the alien. What if they find that a certain molecule stops the alien from even desiring to host you, to make
Oh
itself a
yeah,
host inside you.
some
So,
sort of
I mean,
blocker, amino
yeah,
blocker.
and you could do that with research, but you got no body. Doesn't have
I
a
like that
body.
retro.
Okay, high
Whenever
five.
whenever we write our future script, you'll write the science scenes.
Okay, the Blade Runner
We've got it,
prequel.
huh?
Okay, because I we have to have that conversation, and
Okay.
also like an alien, some sort of alien military domination movie.
Yeah, I think I could write a script that would be very exciting and very different from what we've seen, instead of just rehashing the same stuff, and
Yeah,
yet um, also feel authentically like an Alien franchise film, to where it stays in character. It's just a new look, and I think that's really what you want in a
yeah, yeah.
sequel.
So, and also, if you think about it, um, his body is still out there. Uh,
Ash or Kane.
Kane's body is still out there. So you
Yep, it
can go out
is.
there and get some really good research material from his body. So there
Yeah,
are some things, yeah. There's some things.
maybe he'll just drift through the core systems the way Alien Ripley did. Just blind luck.
Yeah, so much.
So this is cool. They realize that they've got a problem on their hands, and so you have to have these scenes. These are important scenes where the crew, or the people involved, your lead characters, have to grapple with what it could be, what it is, what their plan is, and so you have
Yeah,
to devote time in your script, and you want it to be a believable discussion. What the hell
yeah,
was that thing? What are we going to
yeah.
do? And you
And
want your characters to come up with legitimate solutions. What you don't want is to have your characters come up with dumb ideas that are bound to fail, and you
yeah,
think, oh, they'll forgive me because it's advancing the plot. Don't do
yeah.
that. In fact, the smarter your lead characters are, the more it
Mhm.
forces you, the screenwriter, to come up with a way to defeat that plan, with your evil villain or with your alien or machine or whatever. And the better each side behaves, the more intelligent they behave, the better the story.
Yes.
You cannot hide the intellectual power behind the story. So if your characters come up with a smart plan, and then your alien has a smart way to dodge it or just physically overpower it,
Yes.
your viewers or readers will hang on.
Yeah. And I do believe, as far as, script writing, we're expecting one thing, right? Right at this moment in time. We're expecting a little teeny tiny little something squirting around all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
We're gonna catch it. It's no bigger than the cat, and you know what I mean? And it's gonna be very easy for them to catch. They just have to look everywhere to try to find it.
Well, and what's right, and so that Jonesy actually plays a huge role in this, because that not only does Jonesy serve this function right here, the misdirection,
Yes.
where we think we've got something and it turns out to be the cat. The cat gets away and actually leads to the first death which is Harry Dean Stanton's character, right? Brett, and also it leads to Ripley's decision to go back for Jonesy later in the film. So there's so many things that Jonesy does from a plot device right there. That's great. I love Yaphet Kotto here. He's like, go get him, man. You go get him. Good luck. And no one defends him. They're like, see ya, bro. Go get it. Go get the cat. I would hate this. I would hate to go get this cat by myself.
I'd be like, can you guys come with me? It's
like, hey,
scary.
can we at least have a buddy system?
Yeah. And this is where you see too, just the scene that just passed is that even though she's like a higher ranking officer, Ripley is a part of the search team.
Yes.
And she's constantly in the movie, but she's not the main center of it, which is really lovely. She's just one of the guys, basically.
Yep.
And is passionately involved in every aspect of doing everything here.
Right.
One thing I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, one thing I wanted to mention, and back to what you were saying about the fact that these guys are trying to do some, there's some smart decision making and some dumb decision making, but they're doing the best that they think that they can, right? And some of the stuff is really out of their hands, with the stuff with Mother and also the stuff with Ash. They don't have any control over, because this is something that's much bigger than a bigger force, and they're doing what they feel is the correct thing to do.
Right.
But all the while, you've got this alien creature that's like 2 to 3 steps ahead of them every step of the way.
Well,
they
and keep in
don't know
mind
what they're doing.
In 1979, if this is the first time you're viewing this, you still think you're chasing down an eel-sized alien. This is a clue that maybe it's not an eel-sized thing anymore. It's obviously shed its skin, so it might look a little different. That's a pretty scary thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty and the twist here, is that he's like, okay, well, something happens, so it might not look like we just saw it, but he's not quite expecting the reality.
And this was kind of a different look for a spaceship too, right? Water drizzling down, chains, and I gotta say, in this scene, I absolutely love the sound editing. The sound of the water hitting the brim of the cap, the sound of the chains, the drizzling sound, like the rain sound of the water. It's all very compelling sounds that make you very on edge for this guy, especially knowing he's by himself.
Yeah. I mean, this is the point where you just get like, call out and say, hey guys, you can come on.
I think I found Jonesy.
Yeah, I think I found him. I need your help though. But they abandoned him when he let Jonesy go.
Yeah, and you could definitely say that was a bad decision on their part. Yeah. And you would also kind of think that they would send Ripley to get Jonesy, since it's her cat, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's the one who let the cat go.
That's true. It was his fault.
So they were like, since you did that dumb thing, you're going ahead and find Jonesy again.
Right.
But okay, Ruby Rage is mentioning Jonesy did sort of get a movie in Lily Cat in 1987, and I heard that too. That Lily Cat was one of the movies. It's an anime that kind of influenced this, and there's a couple other movies that, of course, you can tell, like, oh, this is basically Alien. Oh, there's Jonesy.
Here, kitty.
Would you call? Oh
boy, what's that?
Would you call Jonesy the
fragile power?
The fragile power?
Yes, the fragile power. Jonesy does play. It's not very dramatic, but she does,
Oh
or
boy.
the cat does play a key role in the climax.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty stripped down and minuscule archetype in this film. Look at that. That thing is menacing.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I love the film work while he's screaming, the passive look on the cat's face.
Yeah. It's like, what's this?
It's weird because the cat is not scared
Yeah.
or moved at all. It's like a stoic expression on the cat's face. And there's something clearly horrible happening in front of it. And for some reason, I think it makes for great film work. I mean, this thing's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. So now they're realizing this is their powwow on the, it's not a small alien, it's a large alien now. So we have to rethink. This is a re-strategizing, and now they're taking casualties.
Yeah.
It's not the accidental casualty in the sense that they viewed Kane's death with. This was a stalking murder in the ship by a large alien. Oh, and there was a scene we in the last scene. I always get a kick out of just how condescending Ash is when she's like, "How does it work?" And he's like, "Micro changes in air density." He's like so talking down to her.
Yeah.
And Retro, the nostalgic pod blast is here, congratulating you on 9,000.
Thank you so much, Nostalgia Podcast.
And Nostalgic hit 7,000 today, they said.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Oh woo, 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 woo.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And Moonbeam, you are correct. So yeah, Jonesy would represent the fragile power in this, specifically because Ripley was unwilling to let the alien kill it, which would have been the rational thing from a survival standpoint. But heroines, I refer to them as super rational, which means it doesn't mean more reasonable than it means a thinking beyond reason. Beyond reason. It doesn't mean irrational. It's not irrational. It's super rational. And the heroine goes back for Jonesy, which tells you something about the heroine that does that. Just like in Aliens, Newt is the fragile power archetypally in Aliens, and Ripley cannot let her die either. Ripley does the super rational thing, which is to go back and save Newt from certain death.
Yes. And this scene is very important here, where Dallas is discovering that, as he's talking to Mother, their chances are very, very slim to non-existent. And so it also raises the question, like, why isn't there a creative way that the computer can come up with to destroy this thing? It's like it didn't want to. It didn't want to.
Right. And Dallas did not ask the right questions.
Yes.
So again, it shows a level of thinking on Ripley's side. She knows what questions to ask.
Yes.
And K. Oho asks, could you define the fragile power, please? Yes. In heroine-centric stories, there is an archetypal design that repeats in several stories with heroines at the lead. And the fragile power is a often small or childlike character that the rest of the characters in the story overlook or dismiss that the heroine does not. The heroine either invests trust or places responsibility on the fragile power where no one else would. And in a lot of stories in the climax, the fragile power ends up rising to the occasion and doing something very helpful to the heroine or the story in the climax. So in this one, the fragile power doesn't do anything special to save anybody at the end. But other examples are Newt. Newt is a fragile power in the movie Aliens. Yes. And if you remember, Newt is the one, when they're cornered, who leads the battle-hardened Marines out through the ventilation shafts. She saves them, Newt. In Star Wars, R2-D2 is the fragile power for Princess Leia.
Yes.
Toto is the fragile power in Wizard of Oz. Toto is the one who unmasks the wizard by pulling back the curtain. So the fragile power is a recurrent archetypal design in hero-centric stories. And in this story, Jonesy fits that role the best, but it's a stripped down version because it doesn't do everything that archetype normally does.
Yes.
In Lord of the Rings, Mariotic is the fragile power for Lady Eowyn. She trusts him. She brings him onto the battlefield. And at a key moment, Mary stabs that Nazgul in the leg, and that allows Eowyn to kill it. It's just amazing how often the fragile power shows up. John Connor is the fragile power for Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. Yeah, that's probably exactly correct. Sorry, my son just got home. He got a haircut. Looks good, buddy. And this is off. I mean, this is like, no one wants to be in there.
No.
I don't care if you got a flamethrower or I don't care what you got. No one wants to be in this air shaft situation. And one thing I'm really appreciative of in this film is that Dallas actually panics. He keeps a cool head, but he's like, I want to get out of here. How do I, get me out of here?
Yeah.
And it's funny because he's keeping his cool, but he's panicking, and you can't fault him. You're like, yeah, dude, get the hell out of there. The goo.
Oh.
Yeah, that's gross. This is great. It should be. It's got to be there. I mean, if you're Dallas and everyone's telling you it's right there, I mean,
yeah. And I love the way Aliens, the next movie, really amplifies this kind of moment.
Yeah.
They used the very same thing, but they amplified it up.
Yep. It's moving right toward you, and her panicking doesn't help the situation.
Oh, it's great.
Right here, I love this camera angle on him. He looks so vulnerable. And then you get again, like Jonesy, you get another stoic, passive expression in Ash while something terrible is happening.
That was such a nice little jump scare.
Yeah. And I love, they don't show it, but somebody went in there to get that. It looks like Parker went in there to get the no blood. And I got to say, I know Veronica Cartwright didn't want it to be Ripley, but her fear in this is very effective. They told her.
It's very, very effective. Yeah.
Right. Ridley Scott told her, he said, Lambert is a vital role because you are the you're the representative for the audience.
Oh, yeah.
So your lack of self-control, your fear is what the audience will pour into, because that's how we would be. Most of us we'd be pretty scared of this thing. And Corey's comedy channel is in the chat.
Oh, God. Hi, Corey. How are you?
And here's where you start to see, I love it. This is where Ripley begins to assume a leadership role.
Yeah.
I love it when she's like, would you shut up, Parker?
Yeah.
And everyone listens to her.
In that particular scene, Ridley Scott asked Yaphet to interrupt her every time she was speaking. So that was improvised, that shut up moment. But yes, Veronica Cartwright, I mean, I guess she just really does know how to present that panicky moment. Like, she was in The Birds as a child actress, and she was also in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where at the end she does that huge panic moment. She's like, "Oh no!" It's
Yeah.
really over the top. But in this movie, it's worked so well because I mean, she makes sense for her panic. All of that stuff makes sense, and through her, you realize how bad the situation is. If you
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
sure.
And she's starting to zero in on Ash here without knowing. He's like, "What do you want me to do?" And she's like, "Just what you've been doing, Ash. Nothing." Um, and then he kind of just slinks off.
Yeah.
But as a heroine, she's getting some reading on things. She's the first person to call Ash out. She's taking control of the conversation in that scene. She's the one who seems to be taking the serious and without panicking. So she's demonstrating her presence as a leader in that scene for the first time, really.
Yes.
She's been willing to kind of yield a little bit. So now this is the inner sanctum. This is what I refer to as the inner chamber of the heroine's labyrinth.
Yes.
The heroine enters an inner chamber, and there's an exchange in which the heroine gains some knowledge or information. And that's exactly what this is. And there's often a chamber guardian here. In this case, it's the computer itself. It's Mother.
Yeah.
And the chamber guard, there's usually a barrier of some sort, usually a desk in between the heroine and the chamber guardian. And that's exactly what we've got here.
Yeah.
And there's usually a social test. In this case, it's more of the
officer
asking the right question.
Yeah.
What is special order? Oh, so here it is. I think it was Ruby Rage who was mentioning this. It says here, Nostromo rerouted, new coordinates, investigate.
Ensure return of organism for analysts.
For analysis,
and he's right next to her. It's so scary.
Right. So this is Homa's battleground because this is the inner sanctum, the most safest place. And he invades this space right in this moment. So he is in the inner sanctum with her. So that's why it's so terrifying. He's not supposed to be there. His presence is disturbing. And now, of course, he's unmasked. So
yeah, just as the science officer, not for who he truly is.
Right. So the animal tyrant side is now the only thing she's really dealing with here. And the animal tyrant is murderous and dangerous. And that's what Ash secretly is. Yeah. We just didn't know that until he was unmasked.
He's sweating.
Yeah. Ian Holm really delivers this creepy presence very, very well. And now this is actually the poisoned apple. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Poisoned apple it usually has emphasis on the throat, mouth, or eyes. It's usually something internal, injected and ingested. And it usually follows imagery of the unconscious heroine. And it's usually delivered by the masked minotaur of the story. And that's exactly what we get here. He rolls up a magazine. It's the weirdest one. And he attempts to put it in her mouth.
Yeah. Now, Ridley Scott said that what he's really trying to do here is that he's trying to be like the alien.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's phallic meaning.
Well, yes. So there's the poisoned apple is actually a symbolic bad word that rhymes with grape. It's symbolic of that. Yeah. So the fact that you just said that really strongly reinforces this as a poisoned apple archetypal design. And this is weird how he grabs Parker's chest here and inflicts like total pain.
Yeah.
So here, this is the animal tyrant. He's got superhuman strength. He's willing to fight. He's fighting everybody.
Yeah.
And then Parker damages him.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what a scene.
Yeah.
And you think that the alien was bad enough.
That's what I mean. Ripley has to fight two villains in this story.
Yeah.
One meets the definition of the heroine's labyrinth, the insider of her own native culture, who is masked and disguised, who is secretly an animal tyrant, and inhuman. And he is inhuman. He's actually a machine. He's an android. And then the alien meets the definition of the villain of the hero's journey.
Again, he's still in danger.
Right. Still dangerous, right.
And Lambert is finally useful. Actually, does the final blow to get him.
Yeah.
So Brett, you're too funny. Says I divorced a murderous tyrant.
Yeah.
LOL. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very creative. The innards of that was very cool.
Yeah, and they had a heck of a time with the mask.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's the only thing that doesn't hold up. But this was like a clever thing to have him underneath the table for this special effect.
Yeah, I mean, we know the illusion, we could figure it out, but it's good enough. It works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
But you have my sympathies. And I love the distant digital voice here. It's perfect because now that he's unmasked, he no longer sounds human. He sounds like a machine. You read it. I thought it was pretty clear. All other priorities rescinded. Camera closes in.
Yeah.
And this, like I said, I think this is a fundamental key concept of this movie.
Yes.
They realized they had a very strangely brilliant, biological creature. And he calls it what we've all sensed, a perfect organism. Structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. So you can't beat it, is what they're saying.
Yeah. And Lambert pulls out. She says, "You admire it." Like that's this is great dialogue.
Yes, it is. Unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. I mean, that's a statement, on humanity. Last word. Yeah,
he smiles.
That's an awfully diabolical thing to say for a computer. And then Parker puts this guy to pasture.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Ash.
Bye-bye.
We'll see your brother Rook in Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
it's even that, like bishop and rook, chess pieces,
Yeah.
because bishop is the android.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now it's a small band of people.
And they
Moonbeam says, so the xenomorph is like a space cockroach. You'll never get rid of them. That is correct.
Yes. She's taking a very intense chance being by herself like this.
She is.
That's when they get you.
That's right. Yeah, and I have to say, I don't know why they built a lifeboat for only 3. It's like the Titanic. It's like we have a crew of 7, but the escape pod only takes 3.
Yeah.
Retro, how do you think you would perform under these conditions if you were with the crew of the Nostromo?
I would probably just use the lifeboat first. That would probably be like the first thing. But if I am a space trucker,
Yes.
I think as soon as there's like some other life form that that attacks someone, I'll be like, well, we're leaving you on the on the surface, and we're leaving. I hope you're
So
okay.
you are out of there.
Yeah. In fact, she mentions, I think in the beginning, is it a 48-hour um, uh, clearance check or time period in which you see that you're okay, and then cool to move around the cabin, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know.
There would have to be a good protocol like that. I mean, so it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, they were undermined in so many different ways. I don't think there was a choice that they could have made that would have made a difference because of the sheer fact that they had so much working against them. I mean, the Ash being on the inside and manipulating everything just totally
Right.
messed everything up.
And this is where we're getting to it for Parker and Lambert.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of a misdirect though, because we were spending a lot of time with
Right. Yeah, so they're breaking up a horror trope. Whoever's the one by themselves is the one who's isolated and gets attacked by the monster, the murderer, whoever. And so she fits this bill. She is alone, and you think, and we're spending a lot of time with her, so clearly she's going to be the next one. And Lambert and Parker have each other for company, so they're safe. And so they change direction on you.
Oh, jump scare.
Yeah. Yes. Got my popcorn. This is great footage too, with the light. I love it. The shadow moves past Lambert. I love her reaction here too. She looks and she does a double take. That is a great reaction out of that actress.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple reaction too, but it's perfect. And to be honest, from a storytelling standpoint, between these two women, hell, even me, like you'd feel the most safe if Parker was with you, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, thank God Parker's here,
Yeah.
and not happening. And Lambert is rather useless here, I will say.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. You can be paralyzed with fear. They used to say flight or fight, right? They've changed that to add freeze, fight, flight, or freeze. That freezing is actually one of the most common reactions when you're paralyzed with. That's why you get paralyzed with fear. You can't move. So her reaction is actually one of the more believable. Here we go. That's a famous look now.
Oh my goodness.
Poor Parker, man.
Uh,
Ugh. But Ripley's coming for him. She's not running away. That is one scene that doesn't hold up quite as well. And what's a shame is I've seen some of the behind the scenes footage of the actor
yeah.
who's a real tall guy. They met
Yeah.
him in a bar, and they have a scene of him in a doorway, crouching, almost cat-like. And it's such a great image. And I was like, why didn't they film him doing that?
Yeah. Well, I think they trained him on different uh, different things, like different some Krav Maga or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that um just some different like athletic things to get him in shape for like doing that kind of
Mm-hmm.
alien movement.
Well, they said
Oh
that the head
my
was really heavy.
goodness. They're like, oh, they don't show you everything, but that is gross.
Mm-hmm. And this is like pretty much famous footage now
Yes.
of Ripley running through the corridors. She's gonna. Is this where she's trying to blow up the ship?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is an awfully complex and very mechanical system they devise here.
Yeah. Which is good because they want to make sure that
Yeah,
that's
you're
the
sure.
thing. Yeah. I think and maybe the proper thing would have been to just blow up the ship and be on it if just to stop it from going anywhere. But
Yeah.
everybody, you want to survive, right? You want to at least
Mm-hmm.
live through this thing. So,
I don't know why, but I love all of this interaction.
oh yeah, it's so good. Like it it shouldn't be easy for you to um, blow up the ship.
I don't know if I'm saying it right or not, Kay, but Kay says the actor who is inside the xenomorph costume was an art student from Nigeria, and his name was Balaji Badijo. I hope I'm
Oh,
saying that right.
oh, okay.
But yeah, he was very tall and almost perfectly suited for this. And like I said, all the behind the scenes, I wish we saw more of him because he really spent a lot of time, practicing different
Yeah,
moves and angles and things that the alien might do. And I felt like we didn't really get enough of that.
yeah. And I think another name for this they called it Jaws in space as well, um, which
Oh,
is
really?
another yeah. So in Jaws, you don't really see the shark until the full shark at least until the very end. I think they were applying that here as well, where you 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 have shadows of some parts of him, and you don't really get to see him in his full glory until maybe the end. And I believe for that part, they may have used a body double.
Mm. I love these scenes. Love them.
Oh, yeah, the sense of panic is just, like, insane. "Oh, there he is."
I mean, right there. I love her. She's totally freaked out. but doesn't give herself away, right?
Yeah. Oh, there he
She
is.
kind of
Oh my God.
slides away. It's such a great reaction for her.
Yeah. Looking at the cat like, oh,
Mm-hmm. He's like, you look delicious.
yeah. I just finished eating, so maybe I'll come back.
I'll get you later. T-minus 1 minute.
But you get the feeling like the alien is not really eating them. He's
Yeah.
just killing them.
Yeah.
And if I'd have a critique about the alien, is like you're not quite sure why he's killing everyone.
Just hostility.
Yeah. But he's so smart. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you is there a way for her to escape this? It just seems so.
Well, and I like this too, that in every movie, as the countdown gets near 0, they always stop it at like 1 second.
And yeah,
She fails. Time has now expired.
yeah.
I love how Mother's not interested either. Turn the cooling systems back on. No response.
She's just yelling and screaming.
Yeah. Great, nervous, desperate footage.
Yeah. I mean, even her fingernails have like beads of sweat on it.
So you've heard of the final girl trope, right?
Yes.
So this kind of follows that as well.
Yeah. Made very, very famous in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
That flamethrower.
Yeah, I mean there's Ripley with the flamethrower, man. Like,
Yeah. Iconographic stuff right there.
100%. She's my favorite all-time heroine. And so when I see her in these scenes, I'm just like, there she is, living up to it. Like, once
Yeah.
again, for all time. Those yellow lights. This is just incredible.
Once again, I admire so very much the interior of this ship, all the different
Mm-hmm.
designs and all the different pieces, how it's
Yes.
aged.
See, and you can imagine, even though there's nobody in front, even though the alien's not in front of the lifeboat anymore, is it hiding? You still got to approach. Like, I'd still be pretty nervous approaching this thing.
Yeah. I love how timid she is about moving on.
Mm-hmm. Should be safe.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody's like the last 17 minutes is like the most exciting. If you miss everything else, at least catch the last 17
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. KO just does. He likes how the devices and tools from this movie carry into the sequel, like the flamethrower and the motion tracker and the yellow teal bars. Yeah, very much so.
In world connections that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't just use it for fun. They use it because it makes sense in the story. And
Right.
this is the military that's using it this time. Should have been the ones
This is
that they
cool.
sent the first time.
To me, this is a little bit of a callback to Star Wars because this is that under the carriage shot of the Star Destroyer to open the movie gives you a sense of scale of how big the ship is, and they're doing that again here.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
Oh yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the 3 explosions. I think the effects are just okay here, but
Yeah.
again, not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. I thought it was well done, for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The last
Yeah,
one
and
is,
to
like,
your point,
definitely inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey.
yes, so totally that cloudy light. They had it in the
Yeah.
opening of Superman, 1978.
Yeah.
And yeah, to make your point earlier, you were talking about how the Nostromo blew up in space, so it shouldn't be there for Alien
Mhm.
Romulus. It didn't just blow up; it blew up 3 times.
3 times. Yeah. It blew up 3 times with a final ember that died out. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
come on. Like, that's where you lose me,
Right.
you know? Totally lose me on that one. And she's, like, exhausted from everything that's just happened.
And well-earned exhaustion.
Yeah.
And it is funny how Alien and Aliens both have the false sense of security here. Now, a lot of horror tropes do that. You think you defeat the creature and then, you haven't. So this seems to be a little bit more in line with the horror trope.
Yeah.
However, they do it again in Aliens, which is not as much horror as it is action.
Yeah. I don't know how they got this cat to behave like getting this thing. Because usually some other cat will be like,
So that's pretty much the end of the movie. She made it.
yeah,
All
she
is
made it,
well.
guys.
All she needs to do is reprogram the computer to head back to Earth with her cat. We are good. Stunt cat.
Stunt cat.
We have stunt brat and a stunt cat.
They probably did. I don't know. That was because I thought that was amazing. I was like, what? How did they do that? It's like magical.
This was always one of my favorite parts of the film. And I don't know why. It just filmed really well. Really good film work.
Well, I love it because it just shows you how vulnerable she is. She's like, she thinks it's over. She's confident that she survived. And you get this monster that's got blood of acid. And he's a complete
Mm-hmm.
weapon. And she's the
Mm-hmm.
squishy, vulnerable human.
Yeah. So 70s. I mean, just gratuitous.
Oh, he's right there.
Yeah, right there.
He's like, my snack for later.
Totally. I mean, dude. Well, so, obviously there's a lot of criticism why, you have a woman stripped down in these horror films and, but
Yes.
you just nailed it, Retro. Even though it looks great, it makes her more vulnerable when she's wearing less. So I'm not trying to make a big defense of it. I'm just saying there is an extra layer of vulnerability there that resonates to people watching it.
Yeah, no, it's a function. It's not just for for eye candy.
Yeah, if I had to
She
make a pie chart, 80% eye candy, 20% vulnerability.
function.
You can see here.
As you'll see, the female of the species is quite.
If you observe closely.
Oh man. She was thinking fast, though. I think in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Cameraman's like, can we do the shot again?
I didn't quite get all of that.
Like
Look
the
at that.
lighting was off or something.
Look at that. It's like yawning or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has like silver teeth.
I always love this helmet that she's about to put on.
Mm-hmm.
So wonderful.
Yeah. And this is all pretty famous footage. You know, I even see stuff all over on social media, images and memes with that helmet and her face in it, or Jonesy's
Yeah.
face in it, whatever. But pretty iconic look, that helmet.
Yes. Get herself a little weapon. Can
Mm-hmm.
come in handy later. What I don't like about the weapon is you only get one shot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it was cool how the filmmakers did it because they had it asleep.
Yeah.
So this thing is kind of like out of commission, just enough for her to reposition here.
Yeah. He just finished killing. He exerted a lot of energy. So
Yep.
gotta put on her seatbelt.
My lucky star. And it just shows you here in this film how easy this thing blends into machinery.
Yeah. That sleek, black, shiny look.
Which Cameron used to great effect in the sequel.
Oh yeah. I mean they're pretty much hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she's got a plan.
Yeah.
This would be the part that would scare me the most, waking this thing up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This part is still scary to me. The things that jump scare, I don't really get jump scared on anything except when a face appears that I'm not expecting to see. When a face is somewhere up close that I'm not expecting to see it, it kind of, and it goes back to a childhood thing, but scares me. And so this scene here still bugs me. She looks over her shoulder. Hold on, not yet.
Oh my goodness. I was like, why did she turn around?
This scene right here.
K.O. Joe says for the perfect organism. Ah man.
That scene always gets me. I hate it. That thing is right there.
He's about to climb right back in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, so well, I'm still hooked into the ship. He's like, oh look, there's a little hole right here. I could just climb right on in.
Mm-hmm. She's like, fire the thrusters.
Ah.
And then the music changes. And our heroine, Ellen Ripley, defeats the perfect organism.
Yes, and it's the music change is so nice.
Mm-hmm. I really like the soundtrack to this. I have a collectible vinyl record with all the extended tracks and things like that, and I love listening to it. Cargo and ship destroyed.
Yeah.
Just a quick summary. I should reach the frontiers in about 6 weeks. Try 57 years, Ripley.
Yeah.
The last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off. What a great end. What a great end.
Yeah. And what I love too is that everything she just described right there, there are consequences for it in the next movie.
Yes.
Ah!
And I love it because they have that exact scene in Aliens, that shot of her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Cameron really, even though it was 7 years later,
Yeah.
in terms of real time to film, reconstructed the end scene and picked it right back up.
Yeah, I love that because you don't miss a beat on it, and it just makes you feel like this is a true continuation of the story
Yeah,
without giving you the very same story all over again. I mean, they
not
changed
at all.
so much, but the setting, the lore was connected, and it was canonical. It was, that makes you feel so good to watch
Well,
something and know that if you were a fan of the first movie, it still carries over in the same lore. They didn't destroy the lore, and
right.
that's something I'm a big stickler for sequels, and it's just keep me in that world. Stop, trying to one up what you've already done by destroying the lore.
Yeah, don't do it. And honestly, it's a symptom of lazy or weak storytelling ability.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That
if
you're
you
not
can't,
smart enough, or you're not able to like work around the limitations of the story already set.
right, and so they make the case that that's stupid, and I hate I've seen, especially in this era that we're in now, I'll see articles come out and they're like, the Star Wars lore is what's holding Star Wars back. I'm like,
Yeah.
wrong. You just can't figure out how to tell a story in the lore, so you're trying to pretend that the lore is the problem, not you, and you've got it backwards. It's you're the problem. You should be
Yeah.
able. A good storyteller should be able to take the rules
Yes.
and then work inside that space. Now, you can still branch out and do some unexpected things. You could still subvert expectations, but you have to do it in a clever way. You can't just do something out of the blue and be like, well, you didn't expect that, so I did a good job, right?
Yes.
No, not necessarily. But anyway, we just watched a classic film and retro. What a blast to watch it with you.
Oh, thank you. This likewise. I loved all of your insights on the story, especially the comments you made about how it's in relation to the Heron's Labyrinth, and it's just one of those things where the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that movie really feels like that's what this is. That this is not like your typical story. And so
Correct.
you want to I always ask myself, like, why is this movie from 1979 still inspiring people to make movies today? Like, or people are still thinking about it, still working on the franchise, still imagining things about this, this world. And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with some of those structures you were talking about. Just showing you like this ship that is a labyrinth, literally,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, just the fact that we have Ripley, this character that uh, is a heroine, but you're not sure that she even is one until midway, and she is battling all the things you described, that that goes along with the heroine's journey.
And can't, so
Labyrinth.
a lot of times in sequels, your heroine is leveled up, or your hero.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It could be
Yeah.
either one. They level up, and so there's you run into this problem where they're semi-celebrities, or everyone knows that they've done this, and Cameron manages to return her to a lower state, not by diminishing her, but by
Yes.
putting her around hardened colonial Marines, which
Yeah.
naturally don't view her as any above themselves. So
Yeah.
she's just kind of like dropped down, like she's run into some bureaucratic problems, and
Yes.
she's with these. So she returns to the back of
Yeah.
the storytelling world, and yet, like in this movie, she demonstrates things that show that she has some sensibility, a moral compass, and a willingness to act, and emerges as the leader of even the colonial Marines, just as
Yeah.
tough as they are, just as hard as nails, just as even quicker to action than they were. In fact, the more I watch Aliens, the more I've started to really appreciate Vasquez even more. The whole movie's so heroine centric with Vasquez. She's one of the toughest Marines in that story. She doesn't panic. She doesn't lose her head. She takes the lead when they're retreating. She's protecting their rear. So you've got Vasquez, and you've got Newt, and you've got Ripley. 3 tough chicks. And then the villain is also a female, the Queen Alien. So I just really appreciate all of that in this franchise. And like you said, this came from 1979.
Yeah.
And why are people still trying to make sequels to this? I really believe that there was a genuine genius at work in our culture in the late 1970s, with all these toxic males with big sideburns, and these guys, they came up with ideas in a weird way. They took the ideas that were unrealized or unfinished from the late 1800s and 1900s, that the War of the Worlds and Zorro, and they couldn't make them into films all the way, and these guys took that. And they finally got it all right, and the world saw it, and we've never gotten over it. And I was going to tell you too, Retro, that I had another idea for a story world, and I'm really serious about this one. For a TV series, I wanted to write a TV series that follows these guys. I was going to call it Film School, and just follow these guys: John Carpenter, Dan O'Bannon, George Lucas, Christopher Vogler was there in USA. All these guys in US in the US. Southern Cal Film School, show them as students, and then show them kicking around these ideas that are going to become culture-changing ideas, and then show them actually working on these movies, and then showing how their lives crisscross in Hollywood as they get bigger and bigger, and how their ideas change our culture.
Oh, I would love to see something like that. That would be so great. And Corey's comedy says you guys are like taxidermists. You really know your stuff. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Just love movies and love talking about it. I mean, as Doug and I have had 5-hour, 6-hour conversations, and so really just love this stuff.
Yeah, Retro is a genius when it comes to kind of putting these things. You got to go back and watch some of her older reviews. You can just get lost in the reviews. They're just so detailed and so insightful. So if you love your movies, if you have those old ones that you really like, check out some of her older videos in that library.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
By the way, don't forget to click the like button and help this algorithm find this stream, because this is a beloved movie. So
yes, thank you so much. Thank you for mentioning that too. And DJ Knight says, first says, this was fun, RNG. This was great doing this. It's a pleasure. Love doing these watch parties with you guys. And Andrew says, thanks for watching it with us. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for spreading the words. Yeah. And Gary says, Vasquez rocks. Yes, she does. And Keith E, a member for 22 months. Thank you so much.
Keith E, you are the best, sir.
Oh, just incredible. Such an incredible advocate for the channel. Just It just helps me just an incredible amount, in the chat and also personally. So what a great friend. I really appreciate you. And and it says 9,000 persons super check. Just kidding. Oh, and let's see. DJ Knight says, RNG, I think that Kelly Ripa lost her dog, Chewy. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's sad. Um, oh, dogs are, just the sweetest things. Let's
Yeah, they're
see.
part of the family.
Oh, gut wrenching. Oh, so sorry about that. And Corey says, I agree with RNG is awful. Oh, Corey, you're so kind. I just
think we
wanted to
could
let
all agree RNG is pretty awesome.
well, guys, I was inspired to write a song that I put on my channel, Exotic Requiem, and Corey has a series of jokes about the it, everywhere you go on YouTube, from a lot of YouTube gurus, they're all saying that YouTube is on easy mode. And so Corey has some funny shorts and some materials on that. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a song about it. So of course, I wrote a song and posted it recently. It's just so incredible where you could get inspiration from. So thank you, Corey, for inspiring me to write a song. It was really fun. And
That's awesome.
let's see. And Gate of Marvel is here. And by the way, Gate of Marvel, I've seen some of your other posts from some of the other watch parties. Did not get a chance to thank you so much for being here for those. So thank you for hanging out with us. And definitely, yes, Vasquez rocks. Kirk and the Gorn agree.
The Gorn.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. And Kay Ojo says, okay, YouTube and something else. I'm not sure what that other picture is, but it's cute. Let's see.
And K, is it K, if you don't mind saying in the chat, maybe you already did and I missed it, but is it K Ojo or K Oho? My
Okay,
Spanish
yes.
brain wants to say Oho, but I don't want to say it the wrong way either.
Oh, yeah. Ojo or Ojo. And Stuntbrett says, we love Keith. Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And Corey says, Keith is a wonderful, awesome, amazing person. That's right. We all
a lot
agree.
of awesomeness going around right now. That's great.
And also, yeah, Mike's 9K, I don't know when Keith began to actually like hang out with us over here, but I would say about half of the 9,000 is definitely Keith has been with me and just hanging out with us. So really appreciate all the stuff that you do to help me along the way. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And Corey says, I love that song that you did on easy mode, RNG. Great job. Thank you. It was fun. And like, when you get inspired to do something, it just feels right. It feels right. And Brad says, retro kudos on 9K. Valentine's box coming. Hugs. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much. Yes, I got to get to the PO box because there's some stuff I need to open and share with the members. Okay, so Kay says the first one, not in Spanish. So Kay Ojo. Okay.
Thank you, Kay.
Yes, thank you, and thanks for being here as well. And Keithy says, well, I would blush, but you don't blush after you've been in the hotel business for 40 years.
Nice.
And DJ Knight says, are we doing something for 9K? Well, I mean, this is great enough for me right now. I don't want to do anything like completely. I think 10K would really consist of like having a huge party, I think. But to recognize it is definitely something I don't mind doing today as well. And Outcast Creative still with us. Oh my God, it must be so late where you are. It says, great stream, guys. Oh gosh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
Well, let me know.
You were hanging out with us.
I know. Let me know if you were free next week because we're doing aliens, and would love to hear your opinions on stuff.
Yes.
Maybe a little show and tell if we have
Mhm.
any cool stuff. I've been listening on the sofa, taking it easy. Yeah, I hear you because sometimes I like to just listen and uh, let's see.
That's great.
Yeah. And Keithley says, there are two Terminator movies. There are only two Alien movies. Question of the week.
Yep.
I that's what we're watching, right? We've already watched the two Terminator movies, and I'm watching only the other, just the two Alien movies. I think I'll probably do watch parties for some of the other ones later. But because these are like true retro movies, and the other ones are kind of dancing on being a little bit more modern, except for Alien 3. And I can definitely do a watch party for that, but I want to do it a lot later. I want to kind of hit the really juicy movies. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, because let's kind of let me just look at the list of the movies
You got
coming
some
up.
great ones coming up, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to do some of the awesome movies first because I've been doing a lot of just random movies, and I was like, hey, 2025, let me just do some of my favorite movies and see if that how that will work, if there will be a different you know and then I can go on to some of the more obscure movies that I want to watch because I love a lot of obscure movies. And let's see, who's next. We got Aliens next week. The week after that, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Okay, one
Oh,
of my
yeah.
favorites. Yeah, that's just so good. And RoboCop 1987.
Man, I love that
Woo!
movie. I love that movie.
Oh, yes, that is so good, and, there's so many quotes from that movie that are
I'll
just
buy that for a
a
dollar.
dollar, yeah.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
and I remember at one point, I would always say that, and no one would know what the heck I was talking about.
Oh my God. Who are you hanging out with?
I know.
Yeah, this crowd, we all know. That's like frozen in there.
Yes, I'd buy that for a dollar. Just one of the funniest lines, just makes you start laughing immediately. And there are more movies that are pretty impressive coming, and I don't want to give them away just yet, but definitely look out for the things that on the list.
Okay.
And uh, Outcast Creative, the Outcast Creative Land says, yes, director's cut of Alien 3 is way better. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll absolutely check it out then because I didn't know that.
Yeah. And oh,
Yeah,
and
with
and he
RoboCop.
says that he watched RoboCop again today, the ultra violent cut. Ooh.
Oh man. I thought it's pretty violent.
It is like, how can you get more?
I
Obviously.
remember I don't know why I remember this, but you know how like sometimes you're watching the Academy Awards and somebody wins and who you don't think. And I remember watching this Academy Awards the year that RoboCop came out, and RoboCop was up for like best sound effect editing. And
Yeah,
I was like, oh, RoboCop's gonna win this. And they showed the clip. You know, they would cut away and they'd show you a clip. It
yeah.
was the clip of him at the gas station where the guy drives off. It's like, brr, brr, and the whole gas station blows up. And I was like, oh, listen to that sound. And then the Last Emperor won. If unless I'm getting
Uh,
something mixed up, I think the Last Emperor
yeah, it did
won.
rack up a lot of awards that
Yeah,
year.
and I was like, the Last Emperor is not better than RoboCop in sound. Come on. So for whatever reason, that has still bugged me. It's 2025, and I'm still upset about this.
Yeah, yeah. And Kay says, are we watching Dracula and RoboCop next week? No, we're watching Aliens next week, the follow-up movie to this movie.
Um,
So
Aliens is one of my top 3 movies of all time.
It's just so good. What a fantastic movie. It for me, psychologically, I think it just changed the game for me for action movies. Like it has to reach that level of intensity for me when it comes to action movies, and I think it changed the business. Hollywood action movies, especially to do with science fiction, the whole other genre of films kind of came after it, of like that sci-fi action, uh, uh, on the brink of horror, that kind of just exploded. Um, and especially in the B movie section, which I love. I love a good B movie.
Hey,
Because
those are the guilty pleasure, like
oh,
max out movies.
oh, they're so good. They're so good. I was just watching some this weekend and I was like, oh my God. But they usually have a lot of energy. It's just they don't have the money for lighting, acting, and like some of the things that you know, special effects definitely. And so yeah, next week it will be Aliens, but just to give you, I'll give you the dates of the other ones, and just to jot down really quickly. Um, let's see. So, Bram Stoker's Dracula will be on the 22nd of uh, Sep- I'm sorry, of February, and March 1st we'll be watching RoboCop, for the matinee here, and that will be a lot of fun, guys. Those are two amazing movies. So we're gonna have some more awesome movies. If you keep an eye out, probably tomorrow I'm gonna post the next two movies after that, just to get everybody all excited about what movies are coming up next. And I did a post for everybody to see what movies which movies they enjoyed from the Alien franchise. And it looks like if we have a tie between Alien and Aliens. So
Wow.
yeah. So I asked everybody, like, which one what's your favorite Alien movies? And I got Alien and Aliens. So there is
Wow.
that. And let's see. Uh, yes, Keith E. got it. Said next week is Aliens Part 2. I'm actually going to put that in the closing too. And Pauline says that Aliens is my favorite. And
Yep.
Moonbeam says, so no Lorena tonight. Yes, Lorena is at a convention, and I'm sure she's gonna like release small little snippets for her members. So if you're a member over there, she's gonna do some stuff there. But next week she'll be back, and we will be doing. Let's see if I can find it, so you guys will know what we're doing next. We're going to be watching Action Jackson 1988. That's going to be so much fun. So yeah, Aliens with me earlier, and for Saturday night we'll be watching Action Jackson. So a lot of
That's
fun to
awesome.
be had. Lots of fun to be had. So guys, I think that wraps up everything. Did you have any last words about the Alien, just the Alien, the first movie, Alien? Any last
Well,
words?
just that we were treated to a great film today with Retro, and Alien is one of the handful of films, specifically in the science sci-fi genre, that really completely transformed not only Hollywood but our culture. And this was one of numerous movies that had roots in the late 70s that
Yeah,
ended up transforming and shaping the decade that would come, the 1980s. Star Trek 1, and then you would have Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, all through the 80s, super popular. You had Star Wars with Empire Strikes Back in 1980, Return of the Jedi in 1983. You had Terminator, which I know was in the 80s, but early on. Then you had, well, I guess Terminator doesn't really work, but also Alien here, this one, 1979, and then you had Aliens in 1986. So these are the films that are considered some of the most precious, some of the most excellent films ever made. The more that time goes by, the 80s really does look like a golden age for Hollywood to me.
Yes.
And I just can't help but notice how those roots started in the 70s here, in the late
Yes.
70s. And Alien is absolutely part of this this excellent beginning and transformation of the storytelling landscape.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think and there's some other genre besides sci-fi where we had Jaws had a series of movies there running for a while, and then we
Yeah,
had the Planet
Jaws,
of
that's another one.
yeah, and then we had the Planet of the Apes. Do you remember all those movies from the Planet of
Oh
the
my,
Apes back in
yeah,
which kind of was like the end of the 60s, right? 1968, but it like throughout the 70s. I mean, Go Ape was like the thing
yep, that's
there for
right.
a while. And so I do love that. Like 70s movies really they have really a lot of thoughtful movies in there, like
Well, Superman.
Silent Running was a really, really like intensely smart movie. Andromeda Strain, so many of them. And so a Rollerball, that's actually surprisingly smart movie. And
Right.
so and I love the fact that in the 70s that they were experimenting with that. And it was a
Yes.
different format than what was in the 60s, where we had a lot of like international movies from Italy, a lot of them from Italy, where they were experimenting then, and also a lot of in the 50s, where we had all that boom of all of that wonderful sci-fi schlock that was just so like infectious when you see those movies. So um I just movies in general are fascinating, and this Alien in particular, this first one, it just when you see it, especially as a grown up, and you really understand the magnification, like the fact that this is such a huge franchise even to this day, is that you realize that this one-off movie really set the building blocks for a lot of the content we get today, and how to build the fear, how to build up um, a storyline where characters are doing the smartest thing that they know how, and we have
Right.
this creature or this enemy that is so much smarter and that you can't predict what they're going to do.
Well,
It
and this goes for Terminator, Aliens, a lot, and Jason, Friday the 13th.
yeah,
That brutality is its own form of intelligence, right? It just comes right at you, and it
yeah,
doesn't think, it's unclouded, and so even great plans kind of fall apart with such a committed uh, uh, villain, coming at
yeah.
you like that. That's brutality. I remember watching, I think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I was like,
Ooh.
geez, this guy just comes right into the room and starts, going right, just immediate. Michael Myers is like that in Halloween. That's another 70s root that really took off in the 80s. Halloween, John Carpenter, that was what, 1978? When that movie came out, and then the Halloween movies became pretty iconic through the 80s. So, something happened in the late 70s, and a
Yeah.
lot of genius went into this, and we're still not over it. And I love that.
Yeah, it's so good, and I hope that we continue to celebrate these movies because they deserve it for sure. And I did thank you, Keith E, for reminding me to post Douglas's channel. So that is the a link to Douglas's channel, but I also have another link I think is very important for any newcomers that have that are here. If I could find it, um, here we go. Um, there we go. Uh, Doug has a book, and we talked about it a small bit. We talked about the Heroine's Labyrinth, which has a lot of elements about the stories or story elements that we were talking about during this review. So, or this watch party. So, if you feel inclined to be interested in it, go ahead. There's a link right there to take a look at that book
Thank
and
you.
the wonderful like theories that he has about story. It's really great. Like I said, I've been using it a lot for my analysis, and I think I'm getting stronger at analysis. So
Oh,
as a
awesome,
result,
Retro.
so. And Corey says, last night I watched The Exorcist three times. I don't know what possessed me. Yes,
That's awesome.
and so this is actually a great example of Corey's comedy. Do check out his channel. He does have quite a few videos that are and video series in his playlist too that are quite funny. And I happen to love the Midnight Caller. That just gets me into chuckles every time. Uh, and Kathy says, "I'm suspicious about Douglas in his book. I think he just makes this stuff up as he goes. Oh, I promise you, it's definitely fully thought out, and
Thanks, Keith.
and it's great stuff though. It's great stuff. So, yeah, definitely amazing work. Definitely check it out. And that comes to the end of here. Do you have anything coming up? I know that um, you mentioned a channel, and
So
I
the
did
yeah,
post it.
I wanted to have a channel. I ran into some snags, so the channel got delayed. But in fact, just recently did that start to get put back on uh my radar. So
Ooh.
I do plan to have this channel launched at some point. I apologize for the delay. And I can't wait for that because I know Retro and I will still be bumping into each other. Once that channel goes live, we'll be doing some other things. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, everybody. And yes, better to get yourself signed up right now while before the big rush comes and he's launched and you miss all the really juicy stuff. And there's also some videos that are already on his channel that could use some eyeballs because they're really good. They're really very impressive, Doug. So
Oh, thank you.
definitely check those out. I think there's how many, like two or three? Um,
Yeah, I really have used that YouTube channel purely for utilitarian reasons. Like if I needed to post a video on my website, I would just post it to YouTube and then use that link to post to my website. But
okay.
I plan on getting it used for this kind of discussion and this kind of fun. I have a real love and passion for pop culture, specifically storytelling. I've written one historical fiction novel. I'm working on the sequel, and then The Heroine's Labyrinth. So there's just so much ground to cover, and I've met so many people online here on YouTube, like Retro, people who have a equal passion. And, someone we sit down and suddenly it's 5 hours later and we're still talking about Terminator 2. So you
Wait a minute.
that's
We could
special.
have sat and we could sit down and talk about Terminator 2 for 10 hours. I would. What?
Easily. And,
Yeah.
YouTube allows that. It gives us this long form space where like-minded people could come together and really just go into it.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things that reason why I'm in love with this channel and just in general this kind of niche area here is that you could really meet a lot of people who are just who are like-minded and
Yep.
thank you, Corey. That's really sweet of you. Says this, you're so lovely, RG. Thanks for a million for your kindness. My pleasure. It's true though. You're a really great guy, and that your channel is hilarious. And see, and Katie said, see, you have to be prepared to be heckled.
You're right, Keith. You are correct.
Oh man, and yes, and DJ night for sure. Yeah, Lorena is busy tonight. She is going to be she's at MegaCon where I know that there are some celebrities that are going to be there, and she's going to all the shows and all that. So stay tuned for any postings that she might have. I think she might have a surprise or two for for anyone who's a member or people in her that are checking out her stuff. So
Very
definitely
cool.
stay tuned, stay tuned. And yeah, okay. So I just wanted to. I already told you guys where what's coming up. Do look out for some other special fun things happening this week, including members. I'm actually going to post something for you guys this weekend, and look out for some pictures too. There's also just pictures as well.
Wow.
And Kay asks, "What is MegaCon?" I don't know. It is a another convention, to do with people who are doing like comic book, TV, um, movies. So it spreads all across the board
Oh,
for
it's a big one.
entertainment.
I used to live in Orlando, and
Oh,
yeah, it's a huge comic convention in Orlando. One of the biggest in the nation.
oh,
Not,
really?
San Diego's got the biggest, but MegaCon's on that map. It's one of the bigger ones out there.
Oh, cool. All right. And that's usually me telling myself that I need to go over to Lorena's, but
Yep.
today we're not doing anything today. And Movie says I can pick out the archetypes of the heroine's labyrinth.
Awesome.
Time to dance to retros. Oh, thank you. Leads the way for ciao for now. Oh, thank you, thank you. And yes, and let's see. Keith E says, "Okay, be well, be kind. Be the first to sign the chat at Retro. See you next week." Yes. So, guys, yeah, I think that's my cue. We need to zoom out of here. I got to go to yet another far, far away galaxy. And
Doug and Retro, the last two survivors of this stream, signing off.
all right, guys. You guys have a wonderful week ahead, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care, everybody.
Retro Nerd Girl, you are clear for takeoff.
In the neon light she stands, retro girl with nerd comments. Memory lane she takes your hand to the past where good times land. Pixels glow and screens do hum. Hear the beat of retro drum. Geeks unite, oh here we come. Nerdy world where we're from. Retro logo leads the way. In the night to yesterday. All the nerds come out to play. She's the light, won't go away. Film and movies on rewind. Good old days in nerdy mind. Retro nerd girl you will find, guiding us all intertwined. Joystick games and cosmic fights. Wonders days and sleepless nights. With her everything feels right. Retro glow in neon lights. Retro logo leads the way. In the light to yesterday. All the nerds come out to play. She's the light, won't go away. Pixels glow and screens do hum. Hear the beat of retro drum. Geeks unite, oh here we come. Nerdy world where we're from. Retro logo leads the way. In the night to yesterday. All the nerds come out to play. She's the light, won't go away. Film and movies on rewind. Good old days in nerdy mind. Retro nerd girl you will find, guiding us all intertwined. Joystick games and cosmic fights. Wonders days and sleepless nights. With her everything feels just right. Retro glow in neon light.